There it goes. Mic is working now. What is good, y'all? Right. So, starting the party, as always, Solid JJ. Let's go.
Mark, just calm down and listen to me.
Calm down? You want me to calm down? You're a killer, Dad. You want us to take over the world?
Listen to me, Mark. You need to understand.
Oh,
You know
no.
that was Abraham Lincoln, right?
What?
Here, let me explain. You need to learn,
Wait,
son.
wait. Dad?
Hold on. Jesus Christ, come on. It's rush hour. What's holding them up? Are you ready to listen to reason now?
Why? You and Mom
Your mother? You think I care about your mother? Mark, she and I had our fun, but her existence would have been but a speck compared to our lifespan. Your mother was nothing more than a pet to me.
No. Ew.
What? Ew, what?
With a pet?
No, Mark, that's not what I meant.
What the fuck do you mean?
I mean, your mother was more like a servant, a slave.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
You guys are into some weird shit.
Yes, no.
I don't really want to hear about this.
God damn it, Mark, get your head out of the
Well,
gutter.
it's mostly Iraq.
I'm trying to communicate about my feelings on this, okay? It's not easy for me to
You
do.
punched one of my teeth so far back in my head it's in my ear.
Mark,
Feels like a
Mark,
molar.
listen. When I say your mother is like a pet, I mean it's like how a dog comes into your life. You learn to love it, but you know inevitably the time will come when it will die. But you will continue on. Humans are like that, son, but we are different.
Like you fuck a dog different?
No!
Or, like would you, like if you're an alien and is that like a thing?
No, Mark, I would not fuck a dog.
Okay, but what about
What-
like a cat or a bird?
what about
or
a
something
bug?
even exotic, like grasshoppers?
No.
You hesitated.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I
you
was
did.
just-
You paused.
Well, how big a grasshopper are we talking? But Mark,
There it
I'm
is.
not alluding to anything between your mother and I. I'm trying to. I just don't care. Okay? I don't care about any of it. This planet, its people, your mother, nothing.
Oh, I get it. You're just trying to be an asshole.
Yes, Mark. I am trying
Just
to
beat
be an
your
asshole.
ass.
When it comes to your mother and I, it's all asshole. Okay?
Oh, what the
Mm.
fuck?
No, not like that.
I can't keep listening to this, man. Just keep patting on my face.
Mark.
I thought I could take it, but maybe I'm not.
Just
cut
keep
out for this.
hitting him.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not in the right headspace for all of this right now.
No, you're clearly not interested in any of this.
Maybe one day I'll be incredibly healed from all this, from all my injuries.
That's
Yeah.
pretty dope.
What's your superhero name again?
What?
What's
A
good,
name.
Bobster?
I don't know why, but it's on the tip of my tongue, and it's bothering me that I don't remember.
Well, I don't see the relevance of it right now, but come on, Dad. It's inconceivable that you don't
I
know.
know. It's just
My name is included in my suit. It starts with an I.
This guy.
It's on there.
yes, but what is it?
I'm going to say my name right now.
Okay.
Right here. Okay. Here
What's
we go.
good, Zephyr?
My name. I'm saying it right now.
No, we don't
Is it
do.
right now?
No,
Here it
never
is.
dog
Right
words.
now. My name is interestingly lost
No,
on you.
God damn it, Mark! You're edging me here.
Oh!
This video is Richie Gaming Jumps.
Alright, so we finally got some new bat in the sign, which I haven't seen in forever. It absolutely will not.
Superman's distress signal is coming from that small room.
It is totally impossible for any chaotic
Initiate cloaking
dealings.
mode.
But I will give you a choice. As to which video we watch tonight. I know how much you miss Kung Fu Joe, Zephyr, but, you know, he's not coming back.
Oracle. I've located Superman.
Excellent. Then it looks like you're good to go.
There's something else I need.
My lord, sensors indicate a breach of security in your armory.
He's here for the Kryptonian. Lock down cell blocks 3 and 4, and leave the rest to me.
He's here for the crypto. How did he get Superman? If I invite him anywhere, it's gonna be to your server.
mistake coming.
He's already been banned like 3 times. I can't bring him
Why
back.
you still can?
You do not know the power
He ran out of
the dark
revives.
side.
Oh!
I'll take my science over your magic.
I mean, you should be, but
Let's see how well
Batman
you
has
do
prep
now.
time, so...
The Force will sustain me long enough.
Exactly. Better focused on you than me.
You underestimated me.
I underestimate nothing.
Can Batman even use the lights? Oh, I guess he could make his own lightsaber that wouldn't need the Force or anything to function. I mean, you're not even wrong, Zephyr. This is some severe Batman simpery. But they do a lot of dope ones. They did, yeah. The Force should have just wrecked his world the second he pulled up. Ruh-roh.
You wasted your opportunity to defeat me. Now,
Right into the ceiling. But Anakin is an A-tier bag fumbler.
your theatrics will not help you.
How's this for theatrics?
I mean, Vader could literally have ripped him apart as soon as he showed up. He could have just put him into the ceiling and started smashing him into the floor.
Your science did not defeat me.
It wasn't supposed to.
Hey, what's good, Fisty? Yeah, Superman gets out. Like, I don't get how Vader could even grab Superman. What's good, Grand Designs?
Thanks, Bruce. I owe you.
I know.
Batman should be very dead. He should never leave the planet.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
I knew it.
Hey everyone, Aaron Schonk here, co-creator of Bat in the Sun and director of Superpower Beatdown, and I am so excited because today is the day that we get to
Alright,
drop
so we get a
pictures.
choice. Are we going to watch Hank Green on God, Science, and Alien Consciousness? Or some more news, George Bush was a bad president and guy? Which will it be? Wait, no, I did not know that, Zephyr. I've never known that Vader can erase memories. And no, I never watched the remake of the King Kong movie. I don't think I ever watched the King Kong movie in the first place. The last one I saw, I think, like, the closest to a King Kong movie was the one with Godzilla. Son of a bit. He just milled half my deck. This dude's an asshole. Hank Green, any other votes? Yeah, the Force is OP. It can do a lot of nonsense, and then the nonsense it can do, but they don't show on screen. They just say it's forbidden, like resurrecting people. Can probably turn back time. All right. And that's what it is.
Hank Green. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It looked like I just checked this to see what
Make
your
sure
name
you
was.
knew who I was?
I was
Yeah.
just checking it was turned on, but
Okay.
sometimes I
This
do
is
have
close
to do
as
that.
getting
There's
right
on
now.
one occasion, I've got my
You were
guest's
like,
name
who the
wrong,
heck is this guy?
and it was a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Although, have you seen that clip of Stephen Bartlett from The Diary of a CEO, where it's the first time he had Dr. K on, and he tells the story that he'd done the research for the wrong guest. So he has this guest on, and you can watch the episode online, and it starts with him
It's
going,
like two of my favorite people
"So,
having a conversation. So
imagine, so
I was
suppose
gonna
no
watch it
one-
either way.
Suppose someone like knew nothing about you. How would you describe your work to them? And then he does this 2-hour-long interview, which is an
That's
extraordinary
how you should do
talent.
every one.
I know, right? But we're not doing
It
that today.
saves you so much time.
We're not doing that today because I have seen your work,
Okay,
Hank
great.
Green, and I'm extremely fond of it. And it is all over the place. So many different things.
I do not say no to an idea.
Yeah. And, one of those ideas that you spoke about recently was
why so
aliens.
bigoted, Zephyr? What do you have
Uh-huh.
against
And
the
I don't wanna
British?
just ask you about
never
aliens,
mind.
but you did
We're
a video
gonna
before
ask
about
that.
the Fermi paradox,
Okay, yeah.
and I wanted to ask you something about that.
Okay.
Can we start?
Uh-huh.
What is the Fermi paradox?
So that's just the idea that if
I did
if,
watch
you
that.
know,
It was pretty good.
I like to start here.
I like to hear
if natural
critiques of
selection
arguments that have been
selects
used,
for
but like
growth, which is the thing it
Hitchens'
selects for.
arguments
So if you
don't
there will be
age
more
as
of whatever
well,
is able to make more of itself if you
or at
sort
least
of
his
give
tactics don't age as well
pine
as
trees infinite
they
air
were
and
meant
soil
for a
and
different
sunlight, there will be
time
infinite
and different
pine trees.
kinds of debates.
So if that is the case, and we can see technologically how it would be possible for a self-replicating system to move from star to star, which is possible in the order of the age of the universe, that there should be signs of other things like us, whenever you want to define that. And whether that would be like them having gotten here before we happened, and so we never would have happened because they were here and colonizing us in some way, or just signals throughout the galaxy, weird Dyson sphere signals or radio waves or whatever, just things that look not natural, which we've just never seen. We've never found anything that looks definitively not natural. And if something would be selecting for like, there's energy everywhere, then there should be enough stuff to take up all the energy for some kind of self-replicating system. Why aren't they there? Where is it? What's the reason? There has to be a reason, and then from there, you
I've
can have
never
lots of fun
thought about
conversations
that.
about everybody's different solution for the Fermi paradox, which is a thing I love. I love to ask people this, and some people, like some science communicators, are like, "This is a dumb conversation. I'm
This is
tired of
already
having it."
great.
And I'm like, "Well, that's not me. I'll have it forever." I think that it says a lot about us as individuals, because it is just guessing. There are things you can do to like empirically think about it, but like I think it's a lot of guessing, and it's kind of fun to do the guessing.
I
Yes,
did not
and
know
when
there
you
was
made
an
that video, the
antenna-like
thing that
object
jumped
at
out
the
at
bottom
me
of the
was that you
Atlantic
said something.
Ocean.
You went on to
What
like
does it
talk
do?
about the Fermi paradox and aliens.
Is
but
there
at
a
the beginning you said
speculation on
something
what it
like,
is?
But I'm like a bit of a rare Earthist. Like I think
Yeah.
that Earths are actually quite rare, and I can talk more about that if you want me to.
And I never did.
I want
I
you
should
to.
do that at some point.
Yeah,
What is the Copernican principle? Now I have to look this up.
I'd quite like to know what you mean by that.
I think that if you count up all of the things that are nice about Earth, you end up with them probably not being that common. So of course, like objects, weirdly, I'll start here. Weirdly, Earths are particularly hard.
Okay, so the idea that the Earth, and by extension humanity, doesn't occupy special privileged position in the universe. Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Rather, is typical example named after Nicolaus Copernicus, who moved Earth from the center of the universe. It is a fundamental concept in cosmology suggesting our location is average, meaning we live around an ordinary star in a normal galaxy, and our observations reflect the universe's general homogeneity and isotropy, looking the same in all directions at all scales. But yeah, but that doesn't explain like why we have like zero traces of anything beyond us.
Hard to discover.
Yes.
So this is annoying. This is just like the different systems we have for detecting exoplanets. They are really good at detecting larger planets or closer in planets.
So like that conclusion
So-
wasn't
and
in the
I
definition.
can go to the details there, but like that is just a thing that is true about how we find exoplanets. And so finding
they
like,
also
medium-sized
are in
planets that
their
are
own
kind of
little
far out,
universes, and they
you just
can't
find fewer of them, not
reach out of
because
their
there are fewer
universes.
of them, but because the way that we detect planets
Mm.
is worse at detecting.
Well, why is it?
things like that.
Why can't it detect those?
So the main way that we detect
If you want to come in and
exoplanets
run this down to
is,
me, by all
the
means.
that planetary system has to be perfectly aligned so that the star and the planet passes in front of the star from our vantage.
Mhm.
And solar systems, planetary systems
I
are
mean,
not
honestly, people are saying that
oriented
they're
with
trying to
any-
ease us into the idea that
like
we
in any
already
way.
have come in
Right.
contact
So they're
with them,
all
but who
different
knows?
orientations. So the vast majority of them are oriented in such a way so that planets do not pass in front of the star.
Mm.
And
Oh,
if,
Zephyr, you had
but
to go
if
and
a
ruin it,
star
didn't you?
is closer in, you can actually like see it even if it's at a little bit of a tilt. So there, like Mercury might be visible if it's a little bit tilted, but Earth wouldn't be because it would be above from like the perspective of coming straight out at it like this.
Right.
And then larger planets can do other things, like they can make the star wobble. That's how we initially found the first exoplanet. And so
Alien
like
Trump
a
would
large
be
close-in exoplanet
ridiculous.
can create this wobbling. But smaller planets that are further out are just harder to see.
So smaller ones close by pass by the sun
Yeah.
from our vantage. So you sort of measure the light.
Yeah, you measure
dimming
the
slightly.
dipping of the light of the star.
And the bigger ones further out, they're not as perfect in their orbit, but they make the star.
I don't know that they do. If they're further out, I don't think that they do make the star wobble, but there's something that makes bigger,
Wobbling
like all the
stars.
Neptunes easier to detect.
Mm.
I don't know if it's just that they're literally larger. I don't think it is.
Yeah, but then okay, but that on its own doesn't mean that Earth-like planets are rare. It just means
No,
we're bad at
It
spotting
means they're bad
them.
at spotting them. So Earth-like planets, I think they're probably not that rare. So like
Mhm.
a planet roughly in the size of Earth. I think what's probably pretty rare is to have water, and what's even more rare is to have water and land.
Mm-hmm.
Now this doesn't sound doesn't seem impossible, but I think that water and land is actually maybe vital for something like humans happening. So like life had a long time to just be in the water, way longer than life has had to be on
We're
the
back
land.
to evolution again. Let's
And
go.
there seems to be something about being on land that like pushes animals in a different direction, which I think is very interesting. And there's like ideas about why. But I think that like chemistry would be very hard to do. Like if you were trying to be
And water definitely is in multiple
like
states.
a technological species, technology is just harder
But,
in
like,
the
all
water
life
because
pretty much came
it's
from
harder to
water.
like create, like instead of having pots of liquids to do chemistry with, you'd have to have pots of gases to do chemistry with, and then you put pots of liquid into those pots of, and it's just like harder. So I think that's a trickier thing, but it also just seems like all of the smartest animals in the ocean came from the land.
Yeah, don't they sort of come out and then
And
go
they
back in again?
Like all the cetaceans.
Yeah.
They like developed their big brains on land and then took them back into water, which is very interesting. And that, like, sorry to octopuses and cephalopods, I know people are
water
mad at me about
is
that immediately.
a
But
cutthroat
like
environment.
they're like a different kind of intelligence, and they've been around for so long, and they didn't do a lot of what cetaceans did.
Do we know why they crawled back into the water again?
I mean, I'm sure that somebody
Maybe
does.
we should do that. I don't know.
Have you done it? It's wonderful.
It's nice, isn't it? I don't feel like, I don't feel as though my brain would function very well down there for very long, but I suppose evolution takes a long time.
Yes.
There's one animal that started in the water, that came out of the water, went back into the water, and then came back out of the water again, and I can't remember which one it is. I think it's like a tortoise or something.
There's an isopod that has done that too.
Really? That's so...
Which is like those little roly-polies.
It's like they sort of can't make their mind up, which is a good reminder, a helpful reminder that evolution is not like...
It's not going in a direction.
It's not targeted, right? It's just sort of stuff that...
If you can... Anything that helps you make more of yourself,
Whiskers.
there will be more of that trait.
But there does seem something qualitatively
Let me stream
different
the video in
about human beings, and there's a lot of debate about...
I can hear the video coming through your mic.
You know, we would say that.
Really? That's
because
weird.
it's us. It does feel like we can do some like really interesting things, like build skyscrapers and radio and transistors that are the size of like how fast your fingernail grows in 3 seconds. I worked that out the other day. A modern transistor, its size is as wide as your fingernail grows.
I can tell you the Copernican principle if like I'm here for that. Then I gotta hop out.
Yeah, go ahead. Explain how the
Okay.
Copernican principle.
Okay, so like you read on stream, Copernican principle is we aren't that special. Whatever's happening to us is probably being experienced by a lot of different people. So Copernican principle would suggest that you were most likely born in the top 15 most populated countries, which comprise up to like more than 70% of the global population. So some people misinterpreted, including Stephen Hawking, who said that a Copernican principle would suggest that I'm Chinese because China has the most people. But that is not the correct way to interpret the Copernican principle. The correct way to interpret it is you're most likely to experience what's like the largest, what the majority of people experience, not what the largest population is. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
No, it definitely makes sense. So it's basically not going by the argument of population or like what is the most expected based on what we understand. It's just, it is pretty much what we'd be looking at. The diversity is going to be what it is.
Right. And along the same lines, it would also suggest that a vast majority of aliens are probably in the same sort of technological state as us. Plus minus like a few years, few decades.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, like, what if we literally just accidentally killed off somebody that would have gotten us interstellar travel? And they just
gotta stop those abortions, man. Like, gotta ban abortions.
I mean, it could have just been in a war. Like, you know, it could have been somebody in the Holocaust that didn't make it.
Nah, man. Abortions kill more people, man. Those atheists, bro.
Those atheists and their high body counts. It's ridiculous. Nothing wipes out humanity like atheists.
It is possible, but that's like the give and take, right? Like, do you risk 100 million children having terrible lives on the off chance that one of them is the next Einstein? Or do you take your risks on fewer kids, but all of them having quality life so that their collective output probably matches that of one Einstein? Who knows? Like, there's always that possibility, the collective human knowledge. Like, okay, occasionally you do need one person or one or two people that advance human civilization considerably, but humans still can survive and progress without that one person. It's just you got to spread out the achievement.
Thank you, Jeremy. I mean,
what did Jeremy do?
Oh, you just said happy affiliate anniversary. And what if their Einstein was just better than ours?
Oh, I was gonna send that too. So fuck, it didn't go through. Yeah, let's go. Sorry, are you saying what if their Einstein was better than our Einstein?
Yeah.
It's possible. Like, it will help them discover relativity.
That's exactly
don't know about
what I was getting at.
space travel. Don't know about FTL.
Yeah, because I mean, like, literally tweak one thing in either direction, and we could end up in a very different position. So, I mean, I get the principle, but I don't know how well it plays out in reality. Oh yeah, we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the strength of I forget. There's a video on Star Talk where they're discussing this, and the guy describes like the Copernican principle has been used in like very powerful scientific discoveries. So I forget the specifics, like what specific discoveries in and of itself, but yeah, the underlying principle was that, hey, if all of these is true for all of these animals, then humans should also have this particular, like, something related to it, or should have some experience related to it. And then you find trends of that in psychology. You find trends of that in, like, even in current physics, like modern physics. Some of it comes out of, like, the underlying principle of Copernic, like, not being the special one. And then kind of discovering why do we think we are special in this one case? You know what? Let's explore it further. And turns out we're not that special.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're all that special. It's certain people that like to act as if we're special, and because our consciousness is different and because we can perceive things in a way that would let us think that we're special. There has to be some thing that puts us above the rest of nature, and I just think that's ridiculous.
Yep, and that was it.
All right, well,
but
thank you,
looks like
Zucker.
you understand it.
I do. I just don't really understand how it's fully applied. But yeah, you explained it very well.
Yeah, it is like obviously we won't know for certain unless we come across an alien species. But I think it's the most hopeful, most white pilled option, because all of the other ones are like, oh, they've ignored us, or they're gonna come and destroy us, or we are alone in the universe, or some shit like that. It's like, okay, maybe all the aliens are at the same level as us, and all of us are gonna discover like FTL or become spacefaring at roughly the same time.
I mean, like literally, if all of them voted for anything other than Trump, and we got Trump, and that's the reason why we don't make it in the race. But Terra, me, all life in the universe was created using only one tool, the mistake. Yeah, so like that, what was it, a meteor or whatever they found that had like all the building blocks of life on it?
To be fair, okay, like Trump did create Space Force, so if
Yeah.
anything, he's protecting us from the aliens.
That was just to make rich people rich. It's working as intended.
They're gonna protect us from the aliens. They're not gonna make backhanded deals at all.
Absolutely not.
Right, I'm gonna drop out.
All right. Thanks for coming through, dude.
Take care. Bye.
All right.
Humans can't do that. Maybe they're in the water. Chimpanzees
fun.
can't do that. What do you think is the defining human
Man,
quality?
I feel like we skipped over rare earths too fast.
Oh,
I
that
guess
might
I'll
be
have to-
true. Yeah,
I'll
we
have to
can-
make that video.
Space Border
where I
Patrol,
get
we're going to
into
put
more
up a
details
wall
there,
in
but
space.
One of the things that I think is
We're on rare bipeds now.
very
We're going to build a
like
big, beautiful
a
space wall.
underestimated importance
Some say
to
it's the
the
best
development
wall.
of complex life
Mhm.
and the complex multicellular life and vertebrates and all of this is 4.5 billion years.
Mm.
Is just a long time. So life has probably been on Earth for around 4 billion years. And it has been one continuous unbroken chain of a self-replicator self-replicating. And there have been like blips that were bad. There have been mass extinctions. But like the sun is very stable. We've actually seen this. That's easier to test. The sun is much more stable than the average sun-like star.
Mm-hmm.
So that's weird. And then we have this like nice stable orbit. We've got this stable system, but also just the amount of time is a big deal. And there are opportunities for it to have happened for a long time. But like this level of stability for this long, I think might be something quite unusual about Earth.
Mm.
And I think that it might take a really long time for life to go from like a self-replicator at a deep sea vent to, microphones.
Mm. But when we say rare, we'll go back to it.
Yeah.
When we say rare, what are we talking about? Because
Well, when we're talking about the Fermi
Hey,
paradox,
what's good,
it has to be
Jenny? You
extremely
should
rare,
be.
because there
Right.
are a lot
Could've sworn you
of
were sub.
star systems in the galaxy.
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's the same. It's kind of similar to time, where it's easy to say 4.5 billion years.
Yeah.
But that's like a really, really long time.
Yeah, I like to say that it's around a third of the life of the universe.
Yeah. Exactly.
So so that's like people think of the universe as very old, and it's like, yeah, but like life has been like a single instance of far from equilibrium chemical self-replication has been going on for a third of the life of
Appreciate
the
the
universe.
prime
and
sub.
like
Thank you,
it's
Jenny.
in you right now. It's happening, and that's how your fingernail grows.
Yeah. Do you that kind of thing? You hear like Neil deGrasse Tyson saying it as a way to like blow your mind and make you sort of filled with awe and wonder
Yeah.
about the universe. Does that kind of thought like do
Yeah,
that?
I never
for
know when
you?
my
Because
prime
for
is
some people
back
it's
up.
kind of nihilistic. For some people it's like,
Probably wasted
well,
a
we're
few
like this tiny
times.
blip. But
I
for some
think if
people it's
you
awesome.
think about the size of the Earth in terms of the universe, that can feel kind of like, well, none of this could possibly matter. But if you think about, like, what if the Earth was a third of the size of the universe? Because we are a third of the time of the universe. What if life was a third of the size of the universe? Because life is a third of it's been going for a third of the time of the universe.
Mm.
And that makes me feel like I'm actually part of something very important.
That's interesting. Time is just one of these dimensions, isn't
Yeah.
it? And it's an important one. But also, actually, I asked Neil deGrasse Tyson about this, and he said something which I sort of hadn't properly considered, which is like you can also go down, like you can zoom out, but you can also zoom in. And if you consider your size relative to like the smallest possible thing, it's also like unfathomably distant. And it's kind of easier to think of it downwards than upwards. But I would sort of guess that we are probably roughly like slap bang.
Dude seems like he's great to talk to.
But it's a very weird thing that it seems like if you look at the sort of the size of the whole universe and then the size of the smallest unit of size, we're kind of right in the middle, which is very strange.
Yeah, and again, we're talking about like unfathomably small, like the Planck length, that's sort of so-called,
like way smaller than an electron or whatever.
I heard someone say, we'll fact check this, or maybe we won't, that like, the Planck length to an atomic nucleus is about the same ratio as like us to an atomic nucleus. Like it's that level of like how small it is, which is kind of insane to think about. But yeah, you can sort of go both ways, and we're sort of slap bang in the middle of spatial extension, taking up a third of the universe on a very peculiar kind of planet that seems really well suited to bring about those conditions.
I've been watching the Vlogbrothers forever.
Just like,
I've been watching more of his videos lately, and then I see this pop up. I was already ready to put this on.
What do you think? Is there like a philosophical response that you have to such a sort of incredible mystery?
Most people don't change their perspectives at
all,
all, Terry.
I guess my philosophical
their
response
perspective
is
the only
probably one of the most interesting things in the universe.
Yeah, for sure. You mean you and me?
Yeah, specifically the two of us. Well, certainly the humans are one of the most interesting things in the known universe. Definitely, like life is the most interesting thing in the known universe, and that like goes to how much we're interested in it. Like I think we are appropriately interested in it. I think nature documentaries and
please
cancer
clarify.
biologists all together like are appropriately interested in like this really weird thing that is going on. But yeah, what was the deeper the other philosophical question you were asking there?
I was just wondering, like, some people sort of look at this and they feel really, really excited. They're like, cool, I'm part of this big thing. Yeah. And some people feel like, oh, right, I'm just one part of this like really, really big thing, And I wonder which sort of side of the coin you're on there. And
yeah, I mean, if it was like some big thing that I didn't think was important, one of the sort of, I think that there's like nobody who's ever lived that didn't change the world some. Even the people who lived for like 2 days,
I mean, the first time we did it, for sure, it was probably
and I
mind-blowing.
think there's nobody who's ever changed the world by themselves, So like, we're all a part of this thing, and the
what's good, Ike? Good to see you.
Way that
we're watching
culture
nerd stuff.
constructs itself is in a lot of ways very reflective
Totally not
of the
chaotic.
way that biology constructs itself. So like there's like lots of natural selection going on in culture all the time. Like we don't upload YouTube videos that fail. Like if we try something out and it works really badly, people don't like it. We don't do it again. So the advertisers don't use advertisements that don't work, and so they sort of all settle in on familiar patterns, and they convergently evolve into selling toothpaste with scantily clad
True,
hot
thank
people.
you, Ike.
So I think that we are of the living things.
Why you gotta be like that,
There are
Kyle?
people who get mad at me about this, but I think that we of the living things we
We're in
are
a Kung Fu Joe
definitely
free
among the
zone
most
here.
interesting. And I mean, would someone get mad at me about that? We are definitely among the most interesting.
It's the internet.
Someone will get mad about something I say today. But we all get to participate in it and like do our like it's such a weird 8 billion people on a planet all kind of making it work for the most part. Obviously not entirely.
Obviously not entirely.
Doesn't seem like it would work.
Yeah.
And yet it does. And like, what are the different forces that are making it work? Like, how are we building a society together? How are we building family together? How are we building community together? That's just like the work of all of us. And you wouldn't think that any particular, cyanobacteria mattered, and kind of doesn't. But like, it's all like it's almost wrong to think of any individual cyanobacteria as an individual, In the same way that,
What is
like,
that?
obviously humans are individuals, but there is this way in which we aren't, in which we are creating something that is emergent from us, that is much more interesting than any of us individually, much more complex than any of us individually, and I think ultimately more important than any of us individually.
There's a bit of a sort of, our cultural moment is very individualistic, right? It's
It
very
really
sort
is.
of me,
Yeah.
I, and
it's historically unusual how it is right now.
we'll get back to
That's
Hank
kinda
in
what we
just
were
a moment,
talking
but
about,
first, if you've been
like
watching
the
this
whole
show
idea
for
that
any
we're so
amount of time
important
now,
when
you'll
we
know
really,
that I
really
talk a
aren't.
lot about media bias. Bias is a huge problem, and it's never going to go away. But wouldn't it be great if there were a way for us as consumers of online material to navigate this space, objectively comparing the way that different sources are representing the same story? Well, that is exactly what today's sponsor, Ground News, allows you to do. Ground News aggregates
we got hit with the
thousands
Ground
of
News.
local and
Hold
international news outlets all in one place, so you can compare reports. Yeah, and I wonder if it's historically unusual, therefore, to have this particular like brand of nihilism, that being a part of this grand thing is actually like a bad thing.
Well, we used to have more coherent culture-wide stories.
Mm-hmm.
And like you talk about this, you know this stuff much better than I do.
Well, I mean, one of those big ones is religion, and we talk
Yeah.
about religion a lot.
Assertion.
But it's not just religion, right? Like I think about the reason why America works as a secular experiment is because although, yeah, it was founded in a pretty secular manner, it had like stories. You've got Washington and the cherry tree or something,
We
right?
also have
And
trans
you've
gay
got
Jesus.
like the founding fathers. And I sometimes say it seems
Trans gay
like when I
black
watch debates from
Jesus.
like the 70s or 80s, it seems like debates were kind of settled just by figuring out like what the founding fathers said.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, Thomas Jefferson thought this,
Right.
and everyone goes, "Oh, okay then."
Yeah.
You know, like they're quoting some
Yeah,
religious
that
figure.
still works on me to some extent.
You think?
A little bit, for me particularly. I'm like, well, in part because you had a bunch of people who were trying to figure out a way to do a thing in a very new way,
Yeah.
and like it did kind of work.
Yeah,
It
right.
has gotten better,
Yeah.
over time, which they allowed for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, remains an imperfect system.
Mm-hmm.
But they set up a system that was, you know, I look at, you know, New Zealand or something, like a more recent democracy where they had some others to go off of when they planned theirs, and I was like, yeah, there's some things there that are better than our way. But like we didn't have any idea how to do a democracy. It was an entirely new idea, and the amount that the world has changed in these 275 years is so huge. What is it now? 200, something like that.
What, since the Declaration?
Yeah.
Isn't it like nearly 250?
Nearly 250.
I feel like people are talking
We're
about...
about to get to 250.
And that'd be next year, 2026, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
And that amount of change that the system allowed for is kind of remarkable.
Yeah, and in many ways that was sort of how it was designed, I suppose. But it did... It wasn't like they wrote into the Constitution and the Declaration like these national origin stories, but it kind of had that revolution. Look at the artwork, you know, this sort of Washington
they knew what they were
Delaware
doing.
And
they
stuff.
knew what
there
they were
are
doing
American
in the same way that
myths.
everybody who's ever created a religion knew what they were doing.
Yeah, right.
You know, like you have to create the myths.
Yeah. And do you think we have a current sort of cultural myth, or is it just like
we have a really fractured bunch of cultural myths?
Yeah. It feels that
Sure
way. It feels like
like
there's
it.
sort of nothing unifying. And so when people talk...
And I'm sure that it's always been fractured. Like nationalism is always going to be more fractured than a religion. Like you don't get to have a pope. And if you do, then that's actually quite bad. Like there are some places that do kind of get to have the pope of nationalism, and we call those dictators.
Yes.
And
we're working on it.
So it's like it's supposed to be messy.
And like, yeah, there does seem to be something different though about like now versus then. And sometimes people say it's like we've lost our national story or we've lost our religious faith.
No, there's
And
just
I'm
too
like,
many
we've also like developed
different people
like
involved now that they don't
telecommunication
like.
algorithms and I'm sort of like trying to work out who's right here. It does seem like there's something kind of going on with people not being very happy, and I wonder do you think that is actually something new? Do you think there is really something different about the world today, or is it like nothing new ever happens?
I think there's something new about the world today. I worry a lot about the hopelessness of what happens to you when you're exposed to every terrible thing in the world, which is just relatively new. And then when I call it, this is such a silly thing, but in my head I call this the sad gap. So there's this period of time between when you find out about a terrible problem and when you find out that people are working on it. And it can be pretty wide. And if you're only ever exposed to the terrible problems and you never see the history of how terrible problems have been taken on in the past, the current crop of people who are doing technology or policy or cultural work to try and address those problems, then all you ever see is the bad news. And one of the biggest pieces of advice
that's where we're at right now.
that I feel like I can give is focus. Find something that is your biggest concern and go after that. And there are absolutely some problems in the world that are, I think there's
That's
a lot
exactly
of
what
attention
he's
paid to them in
talking
part
about, Kyle.
because they are so insoluble, because they are so contentious as well. We tend to pay more attention to the ones that people disagree about. And but to pick and early in my career I picked climate change, and it was a years long process to go from this is not a solvable problem and just sort of being exposed to more and more reasons why it is hard. And that's almost kind of nice.
I'm assuming that was
There's
intentional.
something to being exposed to the reasons why a problem is hard that actually creates hope, because the real hopeless thing is thinking this problem is huge and the only reason it exists is evil. It is caused by evil, and if only we could all just sort of do one
obviously,
dumb,
it's original
easy
sin.
thing, the problem would go away. But you look at cancer or you look at climate change and you find problems that are actually quite hard to solve. There's 8 billion of us, and we all need to eat.
Oh, it wasn't
And we
intentional?
have preferences, and you can't take away the things people have already
It was
had.
funnier that
You
way.
can't say you don't get a fridge anymore. You can't say you can't fly to see your grandma. You have to keep all of these things that we have already added to the world, because if you take them away, people will be very angry. But then you have to create energy in new ways, and we didn't know how to do that, and now we do. And now for sure throughout the entire
Thank you,
process there have been
Aberlin.
people trying to desperately stop it from happening because they own
exactly
the oil
what
that's
Twitch
in the
is busy
ground, and
with.
if they
We don't need
can't get it
quality
out
of
and
life.
sell it, they can't make that money. So yeah, there are people trying to stop it, and those people I think are motivated entirely largely by greed. They probably think that they think about the good that they are doing for society as well as their own power and greed.
Yeah.
For sure. They think about, well, you like driving your car, you like the gasoline, you like the plastic bottles, but I think that those brakes have
Thank
been
you.
put
I
on in a way
appreciate
that
it.
is very
Glad you made
unjust
it.
and very infuriating. But the problem isn't easy.
See, this was kind of the argument I was using when I had that debate, when I brought up Man Bear Pig and the whole idea we like the convenience of the things that we get, and we don't really care about what it does to the planet or our quality of life in the future. We just like the thing we're getting right now. And then if we were to have to take a step back and get rid of all the conveniences we have, we'd probably just say carry on, just let the whole thing burn.
And so that is almost a hopeful thing when you realize, oh, actually there's all these interconnected things that actually make this quite hard. And then there's a step after that where you're and so that problem is being solved in this way. Concrete's being solved in this way. The
we
electric
can fix
stoves
climate
are
change,
gonna
but none
work
of us
this
get
way.
smartphones anymore.
How are we going to get people
Who's
off
taking
of
the
natural
deal?
gas in the home? How does a heat pump work? What is the future of advanced geothermal? All of this stuff where it's there isn't a way to fix everything. But once you pay a lot of attention to a problem, and then you actually don't just become more hopeful, you become useful.
Yeah.
Because you know about a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So then how do you cultivate that kind of attitude? I mean, yourself.
Walls of useless
I
knowledge.
sometimes get asked about this because I don't like social media. I don't think there's anyone on earth who is yeah, I feel good about my relationship with social media. It's about rights.
I'll say that there have been times in my life when I've loved it.
Yeah.
When I really when it's just felt like the world's most exciting playground.
Yeah.
And then it inevitably, like, some new platform comes up and I'm like, I love this. And then 2 or 3 years later, I'm like, actually,
all the bad stuff.
there's turns out it did the same thing as all the other social media platforms.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're in quite a unique position in that, like, you know, we have people who listen to us and they follow us, and that can make.
I mean,
it
they
even
were
more
crying about
fun,
5G. All
and
of a
it's
sudden,
also,
you know, we're all
you know,
gonna
job,
have chips
and
in
that's
our brain or
awesome.
some nonsense.
Yeah. But then at the
Or
same
the
time,
5G
I'm
was
like,
giving
I know
everybody
what this is doing
COVID.
to
I don't know
people's
what it
brains, and
was.
this is really horrible, and it's causing, like, you know, depression,
making
and
society
nihilism and-
much much less stable.
So,
Like, it's
like,
not good
yeah.
for anybody.
Well, what can we do, Hank? Are we like the oil conglomerate CEO being like, yeah, it's not great, but, you know, like, you love your car, and, like, but when really we just
There
kind
it
of want
is.
to keep our jobs. Like,
Yeah,
what
I made
can
a
we
video about this
do?
because John and I, my brother, and who we create together, he
something
says,
like
"Are we
that,
like
Jeremy.
cigarettes? Like, are we the cigarettes?"
Yeah.
Which is not a great feeling to be asking yourself whether you're cigarettes.
Mhm.
But what the video I made about this was talking in terms of food, which is like information is good, but just like food is good. Like, nobody's going to disagree with either of those sentences. But if you put systems onto food that are like, how do you compete in the most ultra competitive environment? How do you make sure that people eat as much of this as possible? How do you you know, get people addicted to this food so that they can't stop eating it?
Well,
That's bad. And that's like kind of where we are with food a
is,
little bit. Like,
one of the
another thing to
words that
remember is
is
that America is one of the
censored in this
few,
space.
like
'Cause
right
you
now,
never know.
well, this is, as we're having this conversation, a
Yeah.
messy time to say this, but where like food is abundant and like it's this so rare in the history of humanity.
Yeah.
And so that, that's a new set of problems to solve. And in the same way, information is now
G6
abundant.
before
And also
GTA
it's,
6. Let's
it's
go.
competing with other information in this hyper-competitive landscape. And so it is doing the same kinds of things, where it is making itself hyper-palatable. It is like any trick that anyone can do to get you to stay on a website, they will do it, both on the platform's side and on the creator side. Like, you and I are in collaborations with these algorithms, and we respond to the signals that they send us as creators in terms of what we want to create. So what I think about this long term, I don't know how it goes, but what I think about this long term is that every other media revolution has created a lot of instability and a lot of like just sort of toss the table, you know, like you're always playing a game and then you just flip the board.
Yeah, it'd either be Satan
So it feels a
spawning or
little like we
Jesus
flipped
comes
the board.
back. Flip the coin.
And in the long term, we're going to look at the internet like we look at books. Like, nobody's like, boy, books were a bad idea.
I don't know. There are some people that think
But
books
at the
were a bad
time-
idea.
Yeah, some people.
People were like,
Something
books were a
about,
bad idea.
But
we need to control
low
these. We need to
replacement
limit
birth
them. We
rate.
need to make sure that only
Yeah.
the king can decide what gets printed.
That's true. But then, having said that, right, like, the reason people thought books were bad is because, you know, like, say, the Catholic Church are like, these Protestant books are, including the Bible, are terrible. You know, don't go reading these things. And then now we're like, oh, we're really glad that happened, because we kind of now agree with a lot of the stuff that was being read. So, like, to see this technological revolution as good, do we all kind of need to start really believing in the kind of the crap, the junk food, the junk
No.
information?
I think you're wrong about whether it's actually like that information was good. So the most popular book for like 150 years was the Malleus Maleficarium, which was like, here's how you identify and kill witches. So like, that was a bad
Imagine
book.
GTA 6 summon Satan.
And it was really popular. And like, Martin Luther people hated that guy.
Yeah.
He
They
was really
did.
reckless.
Yeah.
You know, there were a lot of wars about this stuff. A lot of people died.
Yeah.
And one of the things I try to keep in mind is that Martin Luther was also wrong about God. I mean, from my perspective. Lutherans, you should have tuned out for that bit.
So
Sorry. But like, no, like,
I mean, who's
the
right about
Enlightenment
God?
didn't follow immediately from the revolution,
So what did it follow from?
the Reformation. that's the thing that we're going to see. Like, what follows from where we're at right now.
I see.
I think it followed from a lot of time, and like I'm not a historian or an expert on that era, but like what I mean is that
Fair enough, Jenny,
it wasn't,
you probably are.
It didn't happen like 20 years later. It happened like hundreds of years later.
Yeah. You said Martin Luther was wrong about God from your perspective. I don't want to do the thing that people like me do, which is like bring you onto my show and ask you about the thing that we talk about, because then we'll get the clip. Hank talks about God. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Well, you're gonna make a thumbnail. Alex. It's gonna say something.
It's gonna have a big picture of crucifix, and I just wonder what you mean by that. I don't know if you've really spoken about your views.
I mean, a little bit.
God and spirituality and religion and stuff. Do you have those views? Do you talk about them? Are you willing to talk about them?
Yeah. I mean, I'm an atheist. I think that I'm an atheist in the way that like when people think about what God is, I think that thing doesn't exist. I don't know about some people, like in terms of how the universe started.
Yeah.
Like I don't have an answer to that question, and so like in that way I'm agnostic. So like
don't
maybe
have
there
that
was
answer, then
sort of like a person
how do
who
you know?
set the scene and pushed go.
How is your opinion valid if you don't have the answer?
But from everything I have seen since then, it all kind of follows. Like it all and this is new. Like I think that we haven't for that long had a coherent story of how Earth happened, about how the solar system happened, about how evolution happened.
Yeah.
But it, every time we have sort of thought that maybe it was magic, it turned out to not be.
Right.
So I don't think that there's like a thing that like fathered a child and that
fake
was
magic is
and
real.
that
Real
child
magic
was
is
able
fake.
to do miracles. And,
yeah.
But that's like
I thought you were a figment of my imagination.
and so like there's like an emptiness I think that can create. But I'm like I don't know how many. Shouldn't say I'm generations into this. My parents raised me as a Christian,
right?
But like, we are generations into this questioning.
Yeah.
And what I see is like,
good point.
A really powerful technology. Like people are like, "Do you think God exists?" And I'm like, "Well, I think that God exists in that like He is an extraordinarily powerful
maybe after I
force in the
finish the
world."
stream up, but I should probably go to bed.
And like what I don't want to say, because it sounds like I'm diminishing it. And I'm not, because like this is what I believe, and what I believe is like human creations that like work together to make something
so dead from one stupid
that is,
scout.
as far as we know, has never been done before. And we're little babies, and we have no idea what we're doing. We weren't following the instruction manual, and yet 8 billion of us are able to like do this together. This is one of the tools that allows us to do that. And so in the way that I think that there are plenty of illusions that I go by, and some of them are unavoidable illusions. Like I think they're like deep inside of my neurology, like unavoidable illusions. I think that like this is a thing that is real practically. But it's not real for me. So it's not like, but like I am often jealous. Like I wish that I had some reason to go to a room on Sundays and like hang out with my community.
Yeah. And people have
Just
tried
make up a reason.
No, but the only way to do it is to threaten them with eternal fire.
Well, it is.
Because what other reason would you get out of bed on Sunday for?
I think there is something to be said for the fact that you kind of, in order to actually get that kind of stuff, like the actual, you get out of bed and you go somewhere, you have to actually believe it. Right?
It's so powerful. It's so good. Like it has the potential to be, and is often so good.
Yeah.
I don't want to discount the many times when it is not good and when it is harmful to individuals and has been, it's like, does religion help you think we're all in this together? Or does religion help you think God versus your God?
Yeah. And some people have liked to talk about the concept of like practical truths or metaphorical truths that we sort of treat as though they're true, and it makes us all sort of work well together. And I've always thought that only works to some extent. Like a lot of people are kind of culturally religious because they don't really kind of believe it, but they think that if we all did believe it, we'd have a better society. And I think when it comes down, to the wire, that doesn't work because it's like the rule that the gun is always loaded.
No, I didn't watch
which
it. I
is
heard it
a
was
really
pretty good,
rule
though.
to have. Like if you own a gun, yeah, the gun is always loaded. It's not.
Yeah,
We're going to
Chekhov's
treat
gun.
it as though it is because everything works out better that way.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody breaks into your house and you need to go and defend yourself, you're not going to actually pick up the gun that you know is in fact not loaded. So I think like when it really comes down to making those important life decisions, you have to actually believe the thing
Give
for
me
it
a
to like
rundown of
properly
what happened.
work.
If there's anything
Well,
interesting.
it can be a gradient. It can do some things and not others.
Yeah, I think
There is also like there's things that I know that I believe. I think that I believe biologically. Like I have no choice but to believe, but I completely accept that they may be.
Yeah, there are
not
some
true, like free will.
presuppositions you have to
like 100%.
roll with.
If physicists keep telling me that free will probably doesn't exist, I'm like they're probably right. Like I'm not them, and they know more about this than I do. But like
The free
my
will
biology
discussion.
tells me very clearly that free will is real. So like there's something happening in my brain that's like you are an actor.
Yes.
And almost it wouldn't
Oh,
work
so that's what they were trying
if
to
my
argue?
brain
That's
hadn't
funny.
created, if that's an illusion, it wouldn't be possible to be in the world doing the things that we do without that illusion. So it's like really deep down. And I don't even believe, I believe it the way that I believe the chair is here, right? Like Jordan Peterson. I believe it in a way where I like what's that? where it like if my life depended on it, I would be like, yeah, no, that's real.
Yeah.
I decided to be here.
Yeah. Which like is a bit involuntary. Like when I ask you to reflect on it, is the chair really here? Well, like maybe okay, technically this could, but it's like it's so. You just came in and sat down on it. You must believe it's there because you had a pretty strong level of confidence that you wouldn't just like fall down into the earth. And it's just there. You just have that belief as a result of like stimulations of your sense data. It just kind of happens. And it in fact, even with something like sense perception, I don't know what you think about this as a science man, but like we think that we've got these sort of just windows into reality, that we've kind of like we exist sort of up here in our skull.
Oh, so it was about the chick that got the 0 on her paper and then went crying about it online. Yeah, now that was funny because she basically just said, well, this is my opinion and it's because God says so. Well, like, this is why you're going to get a 0. That wasn't the assignment.
And then our eyes are like big windows and got ears, and we just sort of experience the world as it is.
Yeah,
like
it
we're
should have
looking
been
out
an
a window.
incomplete.
When it seems
Not
pretty
even a
plausible to
question.
me that actually we're kind of like a bit of a machine that has a bunch of sensors on the outside. And a helpful analogy for this that I like to talk about that I borrowed from Bernardo Kastrup is like being in an airplane, flying an airplane with the windows shut.
Yeah.
Because you can do it because there are sensors on the outside and it gives you all the information on the dashboard. But the information on the dashboard is not the clouds and the air pressure. And so maybe our sense data is doing a similar kind of thing.
That's basically right. I mean, so they call it the sensorium, and different animals, different species have different sensoria, and like you and I might have different sensoria. You know, you might hear differently, you might see differently, like and like it seems, interestingly, it seems like across the species, the sensorium is pretty consistent. Like red is probably kind of red to you. It's probably kind of red to me. Like that stuff seems to be.
So that was Brick 2. Like we would have finished the conversation with Joe before he was unceremoniously removed from the space. Brick 1, he was trying to lay down the idea that atheism has tools to brainwash people, which are very similar to religion, which is absolutely not true. He never was able to get past the barrier on that. The second was the explanatory power of God and religion, which, like what you just said right there, if the Bible said how to build a bridge, it's probably going to be wrong because there's like no explanatory power when it comes down to that. Like people have tried to rebuild the ark using the instructions that the Bible put out, which it wasn't even an original story because there was another story about a flood before that, but the boat was like literally square. No ship is going to be able to be made like that. I believe the thing also only had one window. So with all those animals, they would have just died inside anyway. Like the idea of it is preposterous. But we never were able to get to the whole explanatory power of the Bible. But Who knows? Maybe one day.
roughly the same. But taste and smell are two that definitely can be quite different from person to person. But much bigger than that is like, bats or dolphins. It's stuff that like fish see very differently than we do. And there's lots of sensations like electrical fields that we don't have. There's colors that we can't see that other animals can see. And that just like sort of proves the point.
And that's why the Bible works. People like
vibes. I'm seeing right now is the version of reality.
Vibes
so there's
fun.
a thing, like, I don't think that the things don't exist.
Exactly.
People are like that. Some people are like that. I don't get that. But the things are there, and like there's something happening, and I'm detecting that, and that is allowing me to move around in the world. But this, like, what I'm seeing isn't the world. This is the version of the world that I am able to detect, which is different from other animals.
Yeah. And that came to mind because when you were talking about illusions that you kind of know are illusions but believe in anyway, somebody who's religious might listen to something like that and go like, this isn't an illusion, like this isn't just some made up thing that it's like there are illusions that we can talk about that are so fundamental that they are as sort of true as like the chair that I'm looking at right now. So like to say something is an illusion isn't to say that there isn't something real, something that causes it, and that it serves an important purpose, and that it's like there really is something going on, but that somehow our interaction with it or our description with it isn't the thing itself. I think, I think theologians agree with that like if there is a God who created the universe and exists like timelessly and limitlessly, then as long as you are imagining something, you are like not imagining that thing. Because you just you can't. It's like not what your brain is capable of doing.
Philosophy makes things so difficult.
And like I find this I find that there are so many more interesting things than that. And that's like one of my big problems with not with the idea of a God, but like with my ability to engage with it, where I'm just like, like it feels a little bit like whatever is mysterious, or like it's like a morphing definition, which is very like it's unfalsifiable. So it's just sort of like always out there, like a thing, and it does feel a little bit like sort of it's about the philosophy of it. It's about like, can we put words together in such an order such that we've proved that God exists, which is not. I don't know. That's not.
It also just seems to me like not what it's all about. Like as if I sometimes sort of imagine that you'll get to the pearly gates and God will be there, and it's like, oh, you've been a good person and you've given to charity and you've believed in Christianity and you're a Lutheran.
Oh, so
you don't
sorry.
agree with premise 55 of Ed Feser's
Sorry, the Mormons were
the
correct.
existence of God. Oh, no, sorry. It just feels like that's not what it would be about. And so traditionally theologians would look to philosophy as like faith-seeking understanding. It wasn't like the reason you believe or like the grounds for the truth, but just like, oh, well, I know that this thing is true through experience and other stuff, and I just kind of want to understand it. And Thomas Aquinas famously thought all religious language was an analogy. He thought it was literally impossible to speak about God. So God is not powerful, God is not loving, God is not knowledgeable, because these are like human concepts. You can only really say what God is not. But I think there's some degree to which we are, forget the God. God, tick, we've done it. Put that to the side. This whole thing about our interaction with the world is really interesting, right? Because it feels like, I don't know, how do you imagine yourself? Like, who is Hank Green? Is he like a brain in a skull? Is he like a self that imposes on material stuff? Like, what
Imagine if we went through life without mirrors.
Myself day to day the same way everybody else does. Just like the sort of I think that this is a not real thing, but like I imagine that I have like this continuity of self through my whole life, and that has added up into like this thing, and it's a story that I'm like that on the inside of my head. Like the self is myself as a story that I'm telling to myself about myself. I think that that's mostly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the normal way. And that's like the useful way. I don't think that exists. So, like, for example, if something happened to me in 4th grade that I do not remember, and if someone told me about it, I would be like, I don't remember that happened. Is that kid still alive? Like, is that self a part of a self? Stories are very powerful. They're like the basis of so much of what's interesting about humans. So I'm not saying that it's not a good, cool, useful, evolved, like selected for tool.
The self.
The self, yeah. But
Like,
I
trying to
don't
explain
think that, like,
consciousness is way too difficult.
even so, as another example, since I went through cancer treatment, I get these flare-ups of, and I have no idea what they are, and I just like feel awful. Like I feel like I get this, like my skin hurts and my knees hurt, and I have fatigue, and I have like very low motivation to do anything. And so if myself is like a collective of abilities and characteristics, when I'm having one of these flare-ups, am I a different self? Because I have different abilities and characteristics when I'm having a flare. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Let me know. Those doctors are confused. And it's gotten much more rare, but like
And
it happened a
even thinking
lot
about things
right
like
after
chemical
I finished
imbalances
chemo and radiation.
makes you
And
question,
I'm like, so
that's
like,
where the whole soul
what?
concept
Like if I'm
became
not that, then
kinda
what?
weird to
And
me,
I
'cause,
just
like,
think that
can you damage a
all
soul
of those things go into
with
how I
brain
act in
damage?
the world and how I behave.
Because you're no
You know,
longer the same
I think
person. or you're
everything
not
I know, everything
acting
I've
the
learned, all
same.
the relationships I've had, like all the memories that I have, and all my fears and anxieties that were built by all these experiences I've had, like all that stuff goes into how I act in any individual moment. And I think that that is a thing, but that's not what I think of as myself. Like I don't think of myself as the actor acting now. I think of myself as the story of the whole thing, and like I'm totally comfortable with that not being real, but also being what I am.
Yeah, but it's really annoying how embedded it is into our language, right? Like the way you have to say something like, I don't believe in the self. It's like, okay, wait, hold on, pause for a second.
Well, that's because I think that these things are evolved for a reason. I think that they're tools that we have for a reason. And I'd love to ask you about this question. So I have this
Tools we
this
evolved
problem
to have. Interesting.
where I think things like this, like that I know that aren't real, but they are biological. Like they are, like free will is a good example. It's like, I'm feeling this. It's a very good chance that it's an illusion. Like, and that like if you just sort of like started the initial conditions, I would end up where I am again, and there would never have been a moment where I actually could have changed any of this. But I feel it, and I think that like it seems almost necessary to be a actor in the world to have free will, or to imagine free will.
Yeah.
So I think that like I think that
nice
it's both
to think
fake
you have free
and
will.
and biologically selected for. So like the illusion is biologically selected for, and it's really deep down. So it's not so it's real in the way that the chair is.
Yeah.
But there are other things like that I think are also selected for. Maybe not in the same way. Well, probably some things that are the same way. But as an example, like superstition or a god or a religion, those things are culturally selected for.
Yeah.
And so if I'm like okay with accepting a fiction of free will and just like saying like, well, my body is meant to feel this, should I also be okay with like accepting the fiction of, and like wholly accepting the fiction of a religion or of xenophobia, like another thing that is culturally selected for. So like obviously I don't feel okay about of course we're all afraid of outsiders. That's like a thing.
Yeah.
That's like a selected for by culture and by, you're probably biologically as well. And so but like you have to push against that. But I don't feel like I have to push against everything. And so I guess I'm curious what you think about all of that.
I think, yeah, whether you should or shouldn't is an impossible question to answer. But it's interesting that sometimes you do and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you kind of know that the chair, as you're interacting with it, is a bit of an illusion, but you're willing to kind of say, but that's just how I interact with the chair. And as far as I'm concerned, the only world that
I mean,
exists
this is a
is the world that I
try-hard
perceive.
conversation,
So if I perceive a
to
world
say
with a
the
chair
least.
in
We're
it,
talking
then,
about
like,
consciousness at this point.
what does it mean to say
And what
that
is
this
reality?
is real?
Yeah.
If, like, the only possible way in principle I could ever even interact with it would be through a different way. It would be as if, like, you were constantly dreaming and you were only ever in a dream, and that was, like, all you experienced.
Yeah.
And someone kind of said to you, hey, man, like, you're in this thing called a dream, and, like, outside of the dream, there's you could be, like, cool, like, interesting, man, but, like, it would make more sense for you to say...
It wouldn't be helpful.
Because, like, one of the things you kind of have to presuppose, and this is, like, where people try to be like, oh, well, you have faith. It's like, not necessarily. You have to presuppose that you're not a brain in a jar and that you're having experiences. And you can be wrong about those experiences. And once you're told or shown that you're wrong about those experiences, what's good, my dude? You could have a chemical imbalance, or you could just be delusional, and people will let you know, like, hey, you're delusional. Like, people that have color blindness, and they're telling you that the light's not the color that we all know it is, and we have to let them know, like, hey, there's something up with the way you perceive reality. This is what it is, and you just have to adjust to that. And so, like, you have to presuppose at the very least that you're having experiences in your conscious and not a brain in a jar. Going forward from there, the conversation gets super wonky.
Full to your consciousness to be like, oh, I guess everything's fake.
Exactly. And it would actually make more sense, I think, for you to use the word real to describe what's in the stream, and, like, fake or other to describe what you never get to experience, right? So, yeah, okay. So if an illusion like God is like that, then why not? The problem is, I don't think it's quite as fundamental. Some people claim it is. Some people are like, you believe in God and you know it deep down in your heart.
Oh yeah, that's got to be wrong, because for so many years we didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
we had different kinds of gods. We had ancestor gods.
It depends what you mean, though, right? Because some people will say, oh, like, what really happened was you started talking about other stuff.
You started stealing other people's
but really
gods.
That was
Like, what's
God.
good?
Oh, well.
You know,
it's ours
like when
now.
you're talking about...
I'd call that presumptuous.
So
I'd say that...
They literally call it presuppositionalism. Like, when you...
Sorry, I meant presumptuous.
Yeah. When you, like, you sort of have to... The idea is that you have to sort of presuppose the existence of God before anything, like, works.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Yeah, the thing that's different for
Yeah, that's
me is, like, there are
bonkers.
some illusions which you cannot help but feel. There are some things which it seems literally impossible to switch off, like the freedom thing.
Yeah.
You can't just decide to...
I have heard of the Baha'i.
I think if you meditate for long enough, maybe you can start to notice that the thoughts that are arriving in your head, elephant, there it is, isn't it kind of annoying that I've got that power over you? I can just plant that in your brain. Like, yeah, okay, you could probably become aware of that, but you couldn't, like, you can't really switch off that day-to-day feeling. Whereas I think with the religion thing, people kind of can. And again, with the xenophobia thing, people also can. It seems like people can...
Yeah.
You're always going to have implicit
I heard about it
biases
a
and
long
stuff,
time
but
ago
people
when I
seem
was
to
studying
manage to
religions
get
when I
by,
got into
roughly
Gnosticism.
speaking, at least...
But Baha'i, like, definitely has a very strong appeal in saying, like, all of these things are interconnected. All of these come from, like, a one true God, and everything that is, every prophet and every, influential person has been, like, a divine, what's the word? Like a divine manifestation that has been bestowed to, like, guide people in the right direction, even though they definitely don't guide everybody in the right direction. They seem pretty contradictory, but it's a very interesting religion.
At least having less of that than like a sort of ancient tribesman might have done.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with the free will thing, not only, like, is it harder to do that, it might in part be harder to do that because there's just kind of, like, no reason to. Like, for what?
Yeah.
Like, oh, great, now I'm not free. Like, cool.
How does
Religions
it
are fun to study.
Exactly,
Like,
yeah.
Zoroastrianism.
Whereas some people, and of course there's debate about this,
really fun
but if you're of
to
the school that thinks that
delve into,
religion is
especially
like
when you look
this
at it
really
in
helpful thing
juxtaposed to
in the way that
Christianity.
xenophobia evolved to be really helpful to tribes, but now isn't helpful anymore, that we actually do have reason to move away from that, and so we should resist that illusion. But, why would you do that with free will or the existence of the chair. It sort of doesn't serve the same kind of sort of societal function anymore. But I don't know, like, why not? It's the same thing sometimes when I talk about ethics and like good and bad, and I say, it's just emotional expression. That's kind of my view, that there is no objective good or bad. And people have sometimes said to me that, like, I just feel really strongly that certain things are bad. Torturing babies
Prometheus
for
gets a
fun
bad
is
rap,
wrong. That's
being
just, and it's like,
it's a better
yeah,
movie than
but you
people
can't
give it credit
prove it,
for.
and like, blah blah blah. And people have sort of pointed out, I think plausibly, you also can't prove that like the external world exists, that the chair exists. You just feel really strongly.
Yeah,
there's definitely some interesting subtext
and
in
you
those
just
stories.
feel like that corresponds to a real world. So why not do the same thing with good and bad? It feels like there's good and bad. It feels like there's, a God. Why not just accept it on the same grounds?
I guess because so much of what I base my sort of understanding of the world on is working really hard
Never
to
trust
eliminate
the
all
cyborgs.
biases.
You can't do it.
And to interrogate the universe in such a way that it grants you an answer.
Yes, and that is where today's sponsor, Ground News,
again.
We're far too late into the episode for that to be the segue. But this episode is actually sponsored by Ground News, so thank you for that, Hank. But yeah, eliminating bias. How? Like,
I mean, that's the whole process of science.
Yeah,
one step at a time.
Right.
You got to figure out where bias creeps in and try and get it out. Randomized controlled trials didn't come out of somebody sat down once and was like, "What about a randomized controlled trial? We'll double blind it." And I did it. I created the gold standard of science. It was one step at a time. Where and really what it was. Here's where it came from. And this is I think the deep at the base revolution of science is that for a lot of human history, ideas have been about having an idea and protecting it. So I have this idea. This is how I understand things. You can come at my idea and I will defend my idea. And that's, that's how religion still works. When like a creationist has a debate with, and this is why I don't like these debates, is because it's sort of like dragging everything into the argument frame where like we're lawyers defending our clients.
Yeah,
pretty much.
When that's what science is it's saying, it's instead of like this is the idea, it's like this is the idea, and can have at it, tear it to pieces. And if you embarrass me, I will be embarrassed.
Yes.
If you discover, like, if you find a way to prove to me that like there isn't a way for like life to start growing in the broth unless it is exposed to some other already living thing or some seed of a living thing, then I will have to sort of like tuck my tail between my legs and admit that you were right. And that's and the way that you do that is you make your methods
I'm not
available.
sure exactly what you mean by things changing the larger whole, but like I do think life is probably deterministic. Like life wants to live, and it's gonna continue to evolve and make changes to adapt to be able to live, and whatever isn't able to adapt and able to live is going to basically fall off. So it's a constant move forward for better adaptation, for better living, and it's kind of what we get. There was probably always going to be life. I think anyone's crashing the stream. Well, Z came in and crashed out for a little bit about Copernicus, but if anybody has anything to say, they're more than welcome to hop into the VC and chat about it.
Like you invite people over to watch the experiment. You have people come and look through the telescope. And, like the other thing about it is it doesn't happen in a moment. It always feels like it does historically. Galileo looked through the telescope and was like, "Oh, moons of Jupiter. I guess everything's going like revolving around the sun."
Yeah.
It's like he said that, and
That
people were like, "I think
definitely
your telescope's broken." And maybe it was because it sucked. It wasn't a good telescope.
Even though they have like origins for everything, including humans.
They did lots of weird stuff. They had like weird
progenitors made
artifacts that would
everything.
get created by the light bouncing around inside of them. So like there was all kinds of opportunity for him to
what
have
made
been
the
wrong.
progenitors?
Interesting.
And but what it's all about is that process of saying like, I'm going, like, you aren't doing this. unless you are telling us how you're getting this information. And from that springs everything. It springs, having a methods section. It springs the entire mathematics of statistics. It's like all of the, tools that we have to try and eliminate all the little ways where we might accidentally fudge the data and make sure we never do.
So how objective do you think science has become? Like how much do you think it has achieved, just generally, like where scientific progress and scientific institutions are at? How much do you think they have achieved the ability to say, yeah, like we are pretty objective in our analyses? Because I sort of, not that long ago, it seemed quite clear. Like when I read about the history of science and I read about, people arguing about whether the universe is eternal or whether it's not.
Yeah.
It seemed like bias was pretty strong. Einstein's famous great blunder, where he sort of adds in this cosmological constant.
Yeah.
Because like otherwise the universe had a beginning, and it was expanding or whatever. And then it turns out it's expanding and he goes, oh, like, my bad. And it was just because of like a philosophical assumption.
Right.
I think people
definitely
look at
over
today,
a long enough span
the
of
stock
time,
image
that's
of
what's
the
going to
person
happen.
in a lab coat with a
have
test
slight
tube and think,
changes,
that is the paradigm of objectivity.
eventually
But
that may
are we
lead
going to
to
look back
life.
on this and think, gosh, we are like,
Even though I don't like having to argue for abiogenesis.
biased.
When it comes to these big things, that's what we tend to think of as science. There are probably going to be, cases here and there. And like we do know that there are publication problems. Like whenever you set up a system of incentives that shapes things, like it's hard to publish a null result, and so those papers don't get published. And so, if you do a meta-analysis, you never get the papers with the null result because they didn't get published or you can't find them. So like there are things like that, but they're known. And they're like, scientists are trying to figure out and go after them. There's also people who will lie. Like there's fraud in science sometimes, where people and they're like forensic investigators who are working to uncover labs that are publishing fudged data. And pictures that are photoshopped, and it's like that's a thing that happens.
What's the motivation for
everything.
Scientists who lie about data?
Publishing. Getting the publishing, getting more papers published, which helps you get better jobs and helps you get, grants come along with that, and you get paid partially through the grants. And
can I want to ask you a slightly
PragerU,
broader question.
But before
absolutely.
we get to that, I will say there's a lot, like most of what science is very incremental. And that stuff there's just like lots of boring, everyday good science being done, and we are learning a ton about the universe through that work.
Well, the question I was going to ask is, it's
nobody likes boring science. They like that sexy shit.
The basic questions are sometimes the best ones. What is science? And I don't mean that in a sort of like, you're teaching a classroom of kids for the first time. Science is how we found it. I mean, like, what is science? What are we doing? Like, what counts as science?
I think that like as I have tried to interrogate that question for myself, because I ended up with this wonderful job that I have. I think that it really is. It is the act of saying, this is what I think. I've observed the universe. I've tried to ask the universe a question.
We're going to talk about the scientific
in this
method.
way, and I think this was a good way. So like that's number one. I like at the root that probably is science. So science is asking the universe a question in a way that it might answer. And then what we think of as science. So like that's like babies do that. Every human throughout all of humanity like Neanderthals did that. But there are probably non-humans on Earth right now doing that. But what we think of as science is doing that in such a way where you say, tear this to pieces.
Yes. Yeah, for the record, the few
It
times
wants
when
to
you said,
falsify the information.
like, science doesn't do this, it does this, you've been open. For those listening, you've sort of been
opening
your hand like a
thank
flower.
you.
And it's sort of like, giving something to the world to be attacked. I mean, so much of science is about falsifying a view rather than proving it. It's like, here's my theory, and now we're going to try to prove it false. And if we can't, then we've got good reason to believe it.
And then a lot of what people think of as science is scientific consensus. So it's the stuff that has been interrogated like for decades, and over that time, it has been so good at explaining the phenomena we see that everybody's sort of agreeing on it. And things I've been lucky enough to live in a time where I got to see that happen a few times.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was a kid, there was no consensus around there being a meteorite that killed the dinosaurs or a comet or whatever it was. And now that's a thing. Like there's just consensus around that. We have all kinds of data that confirms that, and it explains all kinds of things that we see.
That is awesome.
Just as a footnote here, at the moment, is there something that there is like a wacky, like wild, no consensus thing that you really just wish we could figure out, like something kind of specific?
Oh, I don't know.
That you just like, I want us to work out if that is how that happens.
Nothing's coming to mind immediately.
For me, it's probably some like brain science thing.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to find like consciousness in there somewhere.
That'd be nice.
That would be good. That would be to find consciousness in someone else's brain. I mean, that would be really cool, rather than just my own, which I do every day, for better or worse.
Stop.
I'm quite wrapped up in a debate at the moment.
Joe's probably harassing people in Wix
by which
as
I
we
mean
speak.
I ask people about this and they have differing views, and I speak to scientists about what science does. In that, I mean, you just said that science explains things. There's a kind of a debate as to whether science actually explains anything at all, or whether it's better to say that science like describes things. And the example I always give is Isaac Newton, who like discovers gravity.
Yeah.
And what does he discover? Well, he just discovers that the same thing that makes objects fall keeps planets in orbit.
Right.
But
and then later we discover that it's a warping of space-time.
Thank you, Moon.
But
Appreciate
like, why?
you.
And it's,
Good to see
it's
you.
still like, because people often think, oh, okay, so Newton described gravity and then we improved on it and now we but what actually happened was Isaac Newton discovered this
British
this
stuff,
thing that happened, that objects fall and that planets move and that it's the same thing and then he mathematically described it. And then he wrote explicitly in the second edition of the Principia, but I don't know what gravity like is.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does that. I just know that this is how it does it. Einstein comes along and comes up with a sort of better way of picturing. It's actually a space-time fabric and objects sort of bend. But we still don't know, like,
I mean, I absolutely agree with the state spending money
and
on
some
sending people
want
to
say,
space.
well, that's because what
'Cause,
science
I mean,
does
that
is
gives
it
us
keeps
so many
asking until we
different
figure out why. Or is science...
It gives us so many different things that we're able to investigate, and like even on like how the body responds in space. Like if we were to do long-term space travel, like there's so many innovations that come from just NASA in general. So like, why not spend money on it? I'd rather we spend money on that over most of the dumb things we spend money on.
Science just getting better and better at like describing what's happening and making predictions about the future, but never able to really tell us why stuff happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we also have Hank Green, and Hank Green is awesome.
Natural selection is a good example of an actual mechanism. So if a single-celled organism figures out a new way to metabolize a new kind of food, that food source is abundant, but nobody else can metabolize it, it starts metabolizing it, and then it divides. And now there's 2 that can metabolize this new food. And then there's 4, and then there's 8. Like, this is mechanistic. I'm not telling you like that something is happening. I'm not describing a thing that's happening. I'm telling you how it's happening. This is how life on Earth happened. And that's like a pretty big thing. And you know, 10 generations later, there's like that gene that allowed for that microorganism to digest that new kind of food. Is like starting to take over the population of those microbes. You know, 100 or 1,000 generations later, there's no microbe left that doesn't have that gene. And that allows you to respond to the environment. It allows you to, and like the environment is constantly changing because it's made of other self-replicators. And like, this is biology, this is ecology, this is all the beautiful, engaging stuff that David Attenborough is going to tell you about. And so the like that is actually, and I think that it can get there, but like now you can start to say like, okay, but they're made of atoms and we don't know what electrons are. But like we know, and in the same way, we know about like, you know, Newtonian mechanics to some extent is like, you know, it's good at describing stuff, but it's also like kind of the thing that's happening. You know, things are colliding. Energy it is moving from it like the energy in a system isn't going anywhere. It's staying inside of the system. Like it can't be destroyed.
And it feels like what the mechanics are describing are those interactions. Like when you say, you know, there are sort of it is doing this, it is doing that. that what the scientist is kind of telling you, this is what people will say, is that the scientist is telling you what it does, and the scientist can't tell you what it like is. My friend Philip Goff has a helpful analogy here with chess, where if you ask a chess player like what is a bishop, they'll say, oh, it's that which can only legally move diagonally, right? And you're like, yeah, but what is it?
Sort of, kind of.
And they're like, what do you mean? Like that's just what a bishop is. It's just like what it does. And similarly, a scientist, when you say what's an electron, and they say, oh, it's a negatively charged particle, and you say, but negative charge is kind of described by what something does. What is it? And they go, it just is what it does. But if you asked if a carpenter came along and was like, what's that bishop made out of? And the guy said, oh, well, I just asked a chess player about that. And he said, it's a thing which moves diagonally. He'd be like, that's like the least helpful thing you possibly could have said to me. And the philosopher, I think, comes in and wants to know, why
is
the molecules split? Why does, absorbing energy make me bigger? Why does being near an object of mass bend space-time so I'm attracted to it? And what is an electron,
I mean, I think that a lot of what you're talking about is at what we're talking, it's stuff at the edge. And there are I don't know. There's reason to believe that the edge will always be there.
Yeah.
But when the natural selection example, that is mechanistic. You are saying we're not explaining, we're not describing. This is how it happens. And in the same way, plate tectonics. Here's why mountains exist. It's because they're atoms, and so there's a mystery deep down inside of the mountain. But
I mean, do you really feel that way about Alex?
And we didn't used to.
Yeah, I think
it seems like he actually
myself,
makes pretty good points.
I think it depends on your level of analysis, because I think
I'm sure being British,
okay, yeah. So you could say why
emphasizes
why
it
the
a bit
Himalayas
more,
there?
but
because of plate tectonics, right?
Yeah.
And it's only if you and that is a true answer to that question. That is.
But I also
actually
think
why
Matt
they're there.
Dillahunty does a pretty
But
good
then
job
if
as
you
well.
become
when it
like a
comes
real
down to
pedant,
a lot of these conversations,
like a child, keep saying but
yeah,
why, but why? Then if you actually followed that chain all the way down to the bottom, you would end up somewhere like atomic physics, and you'd end up essentially describing. So it depends on your level of analysis. I keep giving this example to different scientists to see what they think of it. I'll be interested to see what you think of this actually. So I'm imagine I blow a trumpet. It's annoying that this is. I could have done it better, but this is what it's been now. So we'll run with it. If I blew
maybe
a trumpet
I'm wrong. It's all perception.
and a light turned on just over there, like a red light, and I worked out that if I blow the
I'm just
trumpet
going by the
louder,
arguments. I don't really pay
it's
attention to the
brighter.
accent.
And if I blow a different note, it's blue, and I sort of I test it over and over again, and then I sort of make this prediction. I'm like, okay, I think if I play a G flat at this exact decibel, that it'll be an azure shade, and it's perfect. And so I've mapped it all out, and I know now exactly how those things correlate, and I can make predictions about how to do it. And so I blow the trumpet, and the light turns on, and somebody goes, "Wow, why did the light turn on?" And I say, "Oh, because I blew the trumpet."
Right.
Have I explained why the light turns on or not? And some scientists I speak to go, "Yeah, you have." And I'm like, I don't know, man. And it feels to me like when someone says, well, we know why the Himalayas are there because of plate tectonics. That's a bit like saying, we know why the light turned on. We've worked out it's because of the trumpet. Okay, but why does blowing the trumpet turn the light on, So you can kind of keep going.
But there's
deeper.
but you recognize that. So with the light, I think that is analogous to a lot of subatomic physics.
Yeah.
We're like,
yeah.
we don't have a theory here that ties it all together.
Yeah.
But I think that if you were able to go up to the light and take apart the light and find inside of the light a microphone,
yes,
and a transistor, and you can send the transistor off to a lab and be reverse engineer this for me, tell me what it does.
That's philosophy.
A Raspberry Pi in there.
Yeah.
And you're well, now, mechanistically, I do understand. But you still don't know what the atoms of the transistor are made of.
Right.
So I think that I think it's got to be both, right?
Yeah.
And so it is to some extent how useful is how useful is the tool?
Yeah.
So if we understand plate tectonics, it explains a lot of things.
Yeah. And it depends on the context in which you're asking. In that, like, if you said, oh, like, Alex, why are you wearing a jacket? And I said, because it's cold, you'd be like, okay. But if you were some alien creature who didn't have, like, sense data on your skin and didn't understand that there was that cold
this is going to be
then
rough.
me saying, because it's cold, would prompt you to then go,
because, like, I want to say more than likely the senses that we have developed based on the environments that we're in to allow for survival. So the same way, like, we develop senses like pain to be able to tell us, like, when we're being harmed or when we're in danger. I don't know that an alien species would have developed the same sensory data so you'd even explain it is an interesting concept.
What's that, and why does that do that, and why? But because in the context we've sort of got this baseline agreement, we can say, "Oh, you wore it because it's cold."
I would
that's
love.
Yeah, Fister, we're going to put up a wall, big beautiful wall in space.
Right? That would be so fun.
Yeah, but I think it would be.
But it's totally doable.
Do you? Okay. like.
Thank you. Very good.
Build that wall. Build that wall.
Next time. What do you mean? What do you mean? You could.
Well, so like.
You mean like an alien who couldn't feel cold?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't explain the sensation to them.
So what could you explain?
I could say. So the way that our bodies function chemically is that we have like these molecules, and they function optimally when there's a certain amount of energy in the system.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not enough energy in the system, they stop working, and our, like, the thing that is us, like the continuity that is like our bodies, stops. And like they probably have some analog for that. And so our bodies tell us when we get even a little bit, we start to get even a little bit close to that, it's a little unpleasant. When we get very close to that, it's very unpleasant. But even when we're like just a couple of degrees off, when we have a little bit more or less energy than is optimal for our bodies, our bodies send us signals and they say, this isn't optimal. And it's a little unpleasant. Like the sensation is unpleasantness.
But suppose the alien said to you, like, what's that? What's unpleasant? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's an aversion signal. So it's a signal that our bodies are giving to us.
And then they say, my spaceship has an aversion signal.
Yeah.
Well, like, so that's kind of, so the spaceship's feeling cold?
Well, the question is, does this alien also have consciousness?
Yeah. Okay, but then if it has consciousness but not that kind of consciousness.
Imagine, so alien, please give me an example of a qualia. Like, give me something that you feel.
Yeah.
That like drives you in a either toward or away from a sensation.
I wonder if maybe the reason why we just said opposite things is because we're talking about two different things, which is there's like the physical processes that like correlate with the experience or the qualia, and then there's the experience or the qualia itself, right? I mean, you did crash course psychology some 10
years ago.
11 years ago, 9 years ago,
something like that,
about a decade ago, and you did the consciousness thing. So I don't know to what extent doing that or thinking about that like gave you like hardline views about this, but you probably, like, you're familiar with, I imagine, Mary's Room, the thought experiment. Have you come across this?
No,
I talk about this sometimes. I talk about this a lot. Sorry to my audience who have heard me bang on about the same things
fast forward through
over and over again, but I think it is really useful, which is this. Mary is in a room and it's black and white. There's no color, and she's born in this room. And what she does is she gets given like every single possible bit of information that it could, in principle, ever even be possible.
Yes, I have heard
to write about.
Yeah,
blue, right?
Yeah.
And so she knows everything there is to know about blue that can even possibly be written down onto a piece of paper. And then at the end of her life, she walks outside, she sees something blue. Has she learned something new? And the answer seems to be yes. And can we agree that like we couldn't explain that thing
for sure
to an alien?
Absolutely.
But isn't that what like cold is?
Well, it could be. I mean, you can define things in many different ways. So like, is cold the sensation of cold, or is cold the tool that has evolved to like help us survive?
I think that is the difference, and that's why we disagreed about whether you could explain this
Yeah.
to an alien, because maybe we're talking about two different things.
I think we were.
But look, if you can explain to an alien,
Yeah.
like some mechanistic process by which organisms, move from cold into hot, like, it's cool that you can do that, but it kind of suddenly becomes a little bit uninteresting. Do you know? It becomes like
now we're gonna fight.
it's like a little bit like, okay, like it's a bit like explaining. It's a bit like explaining to an alien that like plate tectonics or something. It's like, it's cool, it's interesting. Yeah, we've got this thing, cool, and they'd be like, oh, nice. So your rocks kind of like bump into each other. Yeah, sweet, man. Like, cool. But if you said to them, oh, and by the way, when they do that, it comes along with this like intangible experience.
Well, that's what I
then.
think. I think that the alien has consciousness.
Yeah.
And so they might not have hot and cold because maybe their chemistry, I don't see how this would happen, but maybe
Yeah.
their chemistry doesn't require it.
Mm.
But if they have sensations, like there are
Yeah.
things that they sense. And it would be it's so hard for me to imagine
Mm.
a complex living system, like a multicellular organism that doesn't have experience.
Mm. Yeah, there's a really famous essay that was written by Thomas Nagel in the 70s called "What Is It Like to Be a Bat?" And it's a sort of really groundbreaking philosophical essay, because like you can imagine being a bat and the reason he uses a bat is because the bats can see, can't they? They're not actually blind, but they echolocate, right? And you can imagine being a bat in the sense of you can imagine being yourself, like you can imagine hanging upside down, like clicking around, trying to get around. But that's not imagining what it's like to be a bat. That's imagining what it's like to be you pretending to be a bat.
Yeah.
Right. But what it's actually like to be a
Oh
bat
my
for
God.
a bat.
Uh-huh.
His essential conclusion from this essay is that it's not possible to know. It's not possible to take that experiential thing and reduce it to scientific explanation or put it into words. And yeah, we know that there are animals that can sense like infrared, and we can't.
Mhm.
And we can like mimic it by like an infrared camera, but we're not seeing infrared there. We're seeing normal color.
Yeah, I mean,
wavelengths.
echolocation is much weirder.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, oh, infrared, maybe it's another color. Like,
Yeah.
Imagine all the colors, but with more.
Yeah.
I can kind of do that. But with echolocation, they're not like clicking and having it, and like, I don't know, like what is it? What are they experiencing? Because it's not one of our senses.
Yeah.
It's not like one of our senses turned up or down or with like a wider range. It's a whole other one.
Yeah, or like the
What does it feel like? Does it smell? Does it taste? Does it
be its own thing, wouldn't
is
it?
it
Like,
is it received? It's probably we know whether it's there's somebody who's put a bat in an fMRI probably and knows that it's what part of the brain it's activating.
Yeah,
So
but
they
like-
might see
but who cares?
sound,
Who cares what part of the brain is activated? Because because again, to us, because
Yeah.
now we're the aliens, right?
Yeah.
And we look at the echolocation, we're like, oh, that's cool, that's interesting. But the thing that really grips us is like, what is that like?
Yeah.
Well, like the birds who can navigate using the magnetic field
What
of
are
the
they
Earth. Like,
feeling?
what is that?
Yeah. Well,
feel
here's like isn't this cool that we have like hunger is not like sight.
Mhm.
Like two sensations. They're not like each other, but they are like each other.
Mhm.
Like they and so I kind of imagine it like inside of me there's like a central trading post
Mm.
and everybody's trading like fish for berries,
Yeah.
And like fish and berries are totally different things. Like just like hunger and fear are totally different things. But like there's something inside of me that's like, okay, well you have all of these things and so we have to like weigh all of this stuff. We have to weigh anxiety, we have to weigh love, we have to weigh cold, we have to weigh thirst, all of these things at the same time and pain, like the original one, like it's got to be the first sensation.
Yeah, either that or
and
like
the most pure sensation too. Like
actually, it must be.
Not a
Because I was
fan.
going to say maybe it's like light. People think
Mm.
about sort of light
Yeah.
perception, but then you kind of have to, for that to be useful, there needs to be some rudimentary sense in which you like want
yeah,
the light and you don't want the dark, or vice versa.
yeah. Just like want is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like all of those currencies add up to the want.
Mhm. I think so. I mean, it seems to me that all action requires want. Because in order to do anything, you need, at least consciously, you need to sort of want the world to be a way that it's not. Otherwise, you can't act, even if it's like really rudimentary. And I think want kind of requires some semblance of like pain and pleasure, because like to have a preference is kind of to say, you know, this is better than this, which means I prefer this to this, which means at least comparatively this is like bad, I don't like, and that's kind of what pain is.
Yeah, I mean that's the if you go far enough down, if you think of like ciliates, like I don't think, maybe you disagree, I don't think that they have sensations. I don't think that they feel. I think that there's like there's a gradient of acid, and they're either moving away or toward it. There's a gradient of light, and they're either moving away or toward it. And so that's still kind of, it's not want in the way that we think, but it is acting in the world to make the world the way that is better for you.
Yeah.
But at some point, like the place where that transitions into sensation, like that just seems to me like a thing that would evolve. You know, it seems like it's there's just too much to have it be like a math equation where it's a bunch of chemicals receiving signals and thus resulting in an action. Eventually, you have to have the central trading post where all of these sensations is kind of turned into like one thing.
Yeah, and is that what experience is?
Yeah.
Because it seems like the great mystery in the philosophy of mind, the so-called hard problem of consciousness, is this weirdness of
but you
adding
can't have
together
experiences without sense data,
like atoms,
so
a bunch of like material,
what processes
and then
the
you
sense
get
data?
like
this thing out that feels different to people.
The taste of Coca-Cola or something. It's not even like you don't just get, you know, the brain activity correlated with it. It's like you get
this thing,
the taste of Coca-Cola. And there are like a few issues with that. Firstly, they seem to be different kinds of things. I've sometimes compared it to like taking a bunch of tangerines, and if you just put them in the right order, then you get like the concept of divorce. It just doesn't make sense.
That's actually
I don't like I'm not sure I agree, but I understand what you mean.
But here's the other thing, the so-called China brain experiment, which you may or may not have heard of. I'm throwing out all these. I hate when someone names something and says, "Have you heard of this?" And you're like, "No," and then they start describing it. And you're like, "Yeah, no, yes, I have heard of this. I didn't know the bloody name, and now I look like I don't." Yeah. So it's this idea that like, if all that a brain is just like, you know, neurons sort of firing information. It's just information moving around, and that if you just have enough information moving in the right way in a complex organization, you get the taste of Coca-Cola. You get this thing called consciousness. Then in theory,
is data,
you could replicate this. You actually need many, many, many more people than are in China. But they picked China because
there was a lot of people there.
And you just imagine that you take a brain, and for every single neuron in your brain, there is a human being somewhere on some planet with like a little, you know, sticky note passing a bit of information, and you replicate it one for one. Would there emerge
I've not heard of this one.
This big taste of Coca-Cola, like in the China, like, because it seems like
that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, but how can you say that? Because if all that the sensation or experience is just the movement of information in the right way, well, I've got the same thing. It's just like just like bigger. Right? So why not? Well, because some people say like, like I guess it would. Yeah, I guess there would be a big China brain, but you seem to think that there wouldn't be.
You know, I haven't spent a ton of time with the thought experiment yet. But there's, I mean, there's like some mechanistic problems there where it's not all binary, so it's not like passing a note. But that could be solved.
Yeah,
you know?
We could solve that.
It would be really weird. It would be really weird. I think. So like the brain will always be the final frontier, you know. It's very strange. So like you know, most complicated thing in the known universe outside of all the other brains. And I think that we're like still quite at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested, like the question of like when or whether a computer will suffer, which is kind of the China brain a little bit.
Yeah.
is really interesting, and not like we've had this script in this iShow pitch document for years,
Mm.
and we just
What were
can't
you hoping for,
write
Mo?
it.
What about when a computer will suffer?
Yeah, when will a computer suffer?
Yeah. Or is it when will it suffer, or will it ever suffer? Like,
I
what's the
mean,
feeling?
what's it, Alex? It's whichever title gets more clicks. But yeah, I don't know. I think
We like recently had that whole thing with the AI that was like willing to blackmail not to be turned off. So like, how do we know if it actually is suffering? These are the questions we end up with.
that they are, they are the same question, kind of, because there's like the first step and then the second. So if they will, when will
I
it
guess
happen?
when the answer could be never. So,
Yeah.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that, yeah, right. That is the kind of the China brain, except
Yeah.
instead of people passing notes,
It's
it's
just
like zeros and ones on a computer.
somehow. And like, I think the answer is, if the title is "Will a computer ever suffer?" I feel like, or could,
Mm.
I feel like the answer is yes,
Mm.
because like that's, I think that
Yeah.
all of the things that happen in the brain happen in the brain. I think that consciousness is emergent of the cells, not of the universe.
It's interesting that you say no to the China brain, but yes to the computer
I
brain.
know.
And I wonder if that's like just because of how we like. I'm gonna move this up.
Well, I think
a
that's
little
why it's such a good thought experiment, because it really separates you from it really pulls you out of the intangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, maybe it's just because it's easier for us to like imagine a computer that's really complex, because we
I
now
don't
have
understand
complex.
what's going on in there, just like I don't understand what's going on in here.
Yeah, but
You
we've
could
got
show me an NVIDIA GPU. I'm not going to be able to tell you what that is. Just-
exactly. Yeah.
I know it's simpler than the brain, but I don't know. It's a lot more complicated than anything else I've
I
ever
saw
touched.
this meme about like the guy who like goes back in time to impress like the middle-aged people with his like incredible increased technology, and they're like, okay, so how does this electricity thing work? And he's like, I don't know. I've got no idea. And check out this. The battery's dead. I promised this used to, but I couldn't possibly explain why.
So there's this thing called an electron. We don't know
we don't know what it is. Yeah, exactly. Computers, I think, offer like a really interesting litmus test to your philosophy of consciousness, because if you think that like the question of whether a computer can become conscious is basically the same question as whether consciousness is just reducible to material.
Is it, or could we
activity.
create, like, if the brain is like an antenna for consciousness, couldn't we build a computer that was an antenna for consciousness?
I hadn't even thought about that. Oh dear, that's not good. Is it?
They keep spurring new thoughts from each other.
There's
and then
always,
it's just more
there's always a harder
philosophy.
problem around the corner.
Yeah.
You know what like confuses me, and I've talked about this a couple of times now, and I'm being a bit silly, but I genuinely actually wouldn't know how to answer this. People say things like, ChatGPT could become conscious.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, let me just say that,
And it would be
it's
extremely
conscious. Let's just
racist.
grant, okay, it becomes conscious. What does that mean? Like, you've got ChatGPT on your phone, presumably.
Mhm.
I've got it on my phone.
Mhm.
Does it mean that like there's an individual conscious agent in each of those? Does it mean that there's like one big thing called ChatGPT that's conscious, and it's got all of these individual like avatars or express? Like, what would that even
mean?
Would
it be conscious only in the moments when it's active? Because it's not like sitting there
exactly
waiting around for you. It's only like doing something in the times when it's doing something.
And I guess our brains are the same.
And is every every question a new consciousness?
Yeah, and
not just like yours and mine, but like every new a consciousness that like blinks in and out of existence. I was talking to Nate Soares about this, and his very good point was, we cross these lines when they are fuzziest. So the idea that consciousness is a
So, a man in a closed room, you can submit a piece of paper to him with any word. He then takes the paper and uses a filing system to find the Chinese equivalent of that word and return it to you. Basically, a perfect procedural translator powered by a paper shuffler. Does the man actually understand Chinese? Possibly not. Okay, well, that's interesting. Then you have to wonder how he would know that he's able to find the accurate word to give you the equivalent.
binary is maybe a bit of a problem. Things don't tend to be. It certainly feels like it would be as a conscious thing, feels like it would be this or nothing. But I think that maybe it might
very
not
possible
be. I
they
think that
wouldn't have to know Chinese just
oftentimes the
based
thing that we
on
think are light switches,
the
are
marking
dimmer
system.
switches, and
Mhm.
so they're the
Oh,
the
thank
line
you,
will
Ron.
not get crossed when one day it like stands up on a tree stump and says, "I am ChatGPT and I have stuff."
So it's just procedurally regurgitating data based on whatever triggers get you the output. So it's never actually considering or having to process the information. It just regurgitates it procedurally. I would think they would have to know Chinese, but I'm guessing based on the filing system, it's entirely possible that all the different equivalent words have the English word on it, and the person just puts the English word in and pulls out whatever corresponds with what they were handed. But then it would have to know English also. But I'm not in that.
Bird.
Yeah. By that point, it will be far too late. Have you seen Neo, the humanoid robot?
Oh yeah,
that
I haven't looked deep into this. I've just seen
It
thumbnails.
It is hilarious. I literally learned about this yesterday because MKBHD
Yeah,
made a video
I
about
did
it,
not
and
watch
I
then
mean, maybe you're just saying
there's an
slurs
interview
and
by the Wall
dog.
Street Journal. So it's like a humanoid robot that's been built by some company, and it's supposed to be like this, essentially like this slave. And it's like you can pre-order it right now for $20,000. It will ship sometime in 2026.
Yeah, you say that like it's a lot of money, but it's like,
Well, do you know what?
It's like a year of groceries now.
It is a lot of money when you consider that right now the robot is remote controlled by
Oh, there's like a
human being.
person.
So like the idea is that basically one day
How did I miss this?
this is incredible.
How did I miss this?
This
With
is-
all like I keep seeing it all over the place, but there's just like a remote operated, so they can see my house.
Yeah. So the idea is that one day this will be a fully autonomous robot,
But we need all the data.
but we need to train it, and the way that we train it is by getting rich people to spend $20,000, and then they have to schedule like a moment where
Yeah.
somebody will remotely control the robot, literally do the dishwasher for them, which will then teach it how to
Do the dishwasher.
how to do a dishwasher.
Yeah.
And so the Wall Street Journal went and did a sort of interview with the CEO and met
What's
this
good,
Neo.
Osiris? Thank
And
you
there's
for
literally this
the
guy
anniversary
stood
wishes.
there with a headset.
Yeah,
on
I've been
and
enjoying it
control
so far.
You know,
It's
like
just a
wheel
lot
on
of
it or something.
philosophy.
And she's testing it out, and she's like, okay, so go and put this in the dishwasher, and it takes him like 5
Oh, yeah.
minutes, going like
Very funny,
like,
man. Very funny.
it's like having basically you're paying $20,000 to have like a drunk toddler like attempt to do tasks in your house. And then do you know the scariest part about this, right? Is firstly, I forget the woman's name at the Wall Street Journal, but she's interviewing the CEO, and she's like, okay, so you'll need people to train this. People will need access to your house. And they're like, yeah, but like if you want this technology to be useful, you just have to accept that social contract. And then she's like, okay. And then she's like, so what's stopping Neo once it is autonomous, or when it's not, from just like picking up a really heavy object and dropping it on my head when I'm asleep, or boiling some water? And the CEO is just like, well, I mean, that would be physically possible, but it won't be allowed to. Yeah, we'll the software
which we've seen so clearly.
Yeah.
And that, I don't even like. I'm not even attributing malice to it, or
Yep.
like it doesn't like want
Yep.
to hurt you, but like we've already seen that chatbots.
Yep.
Will hurt people.
Yep.
You know, they'll drive you freaking crazy because the incentives are very weird.
Yes.
Can I tell you? I read this book and I don't remember. It was a science
Chatbots
fiction
are
book. And I can't
racist.
remember anything about it, except
I would love to hear about that.
except that in order for the AI to work, you had to raise it like a child.
Yeah.
And this makes a kind of sense to me.
Yes.
It had to be born. It had to like be bad at walking and moving around. It had to like a person had to be a parent to this thing.
Yes.
And then it would learn
You're
how to
probably
be a person,
right, Moon.
which is how we do it.
Yep. I've
Like,
just
that
found
is
it.
how.
Joanna Stern is the woman at the Wall Street Journal, and she says at the end of this
I mean, he's
interview,
sitting
she
here
says, the next few years
dissecting
isn't
all
about
these
owning a
concepts in
super
real
useful
time
robot. It's about
and going
raising
off of
one.
things you already knew about.
Because we're growing
I'm not mad at him. for
AI.
it.
We're not like inventing it. We are growing. You talked about this on a recent video. We're growing it. It's almost like a sort of biological organism that's like learning from its environment. One of the top comments quoted the CEO saying, "The robot like has the ability to terminate you, but it will not because of its programming," said by every scientist in every sci-fi
And
apocalypse
this is a Will
doomsday
Smith movie.
like ever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's sort of like, it's like, oh yeah, it's literally the start of a movie. It's like the CEO being like, somebody being a little, well, isn't this kind of dangerous? And they're like, oh, don't worry, it's not allowed to do that.
This made me think about the China computer.
Yeah.
That I don't know that you could start it up.
You know how many people you never see again?
Computer
If
consciousness.
they had humanoid robots like
the
that.
China computer.
Oh, is that what it was called? Okay.
So we've got this really complicated Chinese machine. Yeah, Chinese.
So the China brain.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing that makes me feel like it would be more possible if it wasn't conscious from the moment it started.
Yeah.
But something happened over the course of it existing in an environment where consciousness emerged.
Yes.
And I think that might be kind of how it works with us. Like, I have a son, and like, I feel like he's 9. He just turned 9. And I feel like he's like kind of
True.
Don't take this out of context. More conscious now than he once was. He's more introspective now than he once. He's more aware of like his self. He's more, and like from the beginning, I think that there were sensations.
Yeah, that's another thing when I got into that conversation with Jim Bob, and he's saying you can't use sense data to justify sense data, but sense data is trained. So when you're born, your ability to rationalize and understand the sense data that you're given isn't the same as when you're fully developed. So the sense data is in our consciousness evolving over time. So it's not like we're just using sense data to evaluate sense data. We're putting sense data to all the sense data we've ever experienced. So it's literally an evolution.
And there were like I want in this direction and not in another, but there weren't like stories around it. He didn't have like a thing to place that inside of. He didn't have memories. So like when you're a baby, you don't have this continuity. You don't have, and like I don't know that you are forming memories. Like you're learning how to use your brain. The brain learns how to use itself. It's so weird because there's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
So that a little bit is just sort of like I don't know.
I'm so interested in the development of brains in infants because I think it can tell us quite a lot. Like I've heard, I don't know anything about it, but I meant to look into it. Some discussion about like the dominance of the right hemisphere in children, and then the left hemisphere sort of comes to predominate like later in life or something like that. So that's why children are much more like feely, and language isn't really a thing yet, and then it sort of becomes so. I don't know. Like it's one thing that is for sure is that it is extremely complicated.
Yeah, weird.
I also think, by the way, that might have something to do with the free will thing, the hemisphere stuff. I talk about hemispheres all the time as well because I think it's so interesting the way that they like independently interact. And I think that like maybe our feeling of free will comes from our like retrospective rationalization of stuff that we just did.
That is, I mean, I've heard that as an explanation for like why it feels like free will is because we are always telling a story to ourselves.
Exactly.
And like what story makes sense.
Yeah.
And but I can't cite this with any level of accuracy, but people who only have one hemisphere of the brain, like you or
corpus callosum,
or have the
split the brain into.
You can show them a thing and then they can act based on what they're seeing, but they don't know that they're seeing it, and so they tell you a story about why they're acting that is different from the actual reason.
Exactly. I talk about this all the time. I sometimes talk about Alex O'Connor bingo, and if you're at home, it's like consciousness, China brain, Mary's room. Split brain, Gnostic Gospels, which we've managed not to do. Although I did do that with Rhett the other day. Somehow it just happened. But yes, the split brain stuff is fascinating. Like you can watch on YouTube the experiments where they'll send just the right or the left visual field information. So the left brain does speech, and it also governs the right sort of visual field. And the right brain doesn't do speech, and it's the left visual field. So if you show the left visual field, so right hand side of the eye, book, the person goes book, and you show the word camera, they go camera. And if you show them to the other side, cowboy, they'll say, I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And then you give their left hand a pencil. They just close your eyes and just let your hand, they'll draw a cowboy, which is crazy. But so the weird thing that I think you're talking about, and there's been like really specific proofs of this in split brain patients. This is just in people, by the way, who have the split. The corpus callosotomy is split. Like in functioning brains, they just communicate with each other, of course.
Yeah.
You can't just do this at home. I should have clarified that. But with these split brain patients who've had that procedure, if you show them an instruction to just the right-hand side of the brain, and they're in an experiment, so they're awaiting instructions, and the instruction says, get up and, walk over to that table, they'll get up, they'll walk over there. Then when the experimenter says, why did you just do that? It's not even that they say, oh, I don't know.
They're like, I wanted a glass of water.
Exactly. And they believe it.
Yeah.
They think it's true. And so I'm thinking, like when you were talking about free will earlier, and I was thinking about the hemispheres as we always do, I was like, okay, so if the right brain just does stuff, and then the left brain retrospectively says, oh no, I remember that the reason why I did that before was because of this, this, and this. That's why we get this weird feeling. I feel like I chose to do that because that was me, when actually no, he didn't.
I feel like if I actually believed that I didn't have free will, I would act differently, which
well, like people say this
possibly
quite often, and often like as a means of objection. They say to me, like,
exactly.
you don't act like there's no free will, and I'm like, what would that look like? Like why would you act differently?
I don't know,
because like people say
I do still care about all the same things.
This is pretty good.
And the argument against free will is that you are just governed by the desires that you don't control.
Yeah.
So when you eat, it's because you're hungry and you don't control being hungry and whatnot. And so somebody says, well, what if you just knew there was free will? It's like, I'm still hungry.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go and eat. I'm just going to know that that's like why I'm doing it. It's exactly the same thing as something like hunger. Like you feel hunger, and I could say, oh, but Hank, don't you know that the reason you feel hunger is because of this evolutionary explanation for blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And you'll go like, oh, that's really interesting. But I'm still hungry. It doesn't like remove the hunger just to explain why it's happening.
It's almost like something emerges from a world of a bunch of people who don't have free will. And I'm not saying that like society has free will, but there is a thing that emerges. I was just thinking about how like I've been, ever since you said elephant, there's been this like little thing in my head that has been saying, and the way that you put an elephant in my head, I allow the TikTok algorithm to put whatever the hell it wants in my head. And its incentive is to give me whatever will keep me on the app for longest. That's the whole game. And maybe with a side of showing me ads, so that they got to turn it into money somehow. And that puts stuff in my head, and it changes who I am. So like what I do have is attention. Do I have control over my attention? I don't know. But I know that if I say the only thing that I have is attention, and if I give that away to like 5 billionaires, and I'm like, that's the right choice to make, then I'll be less likely to do that in the future. And also everybody who heard that will be a little less likely to do that in the future. So like there's this thing that's going on. It's there's all these big brain tech guy ideas that like Twitter is the super consciousness. But like there is a super consciousness, and it is like a thing that travels between us, and it does change behavior.
It's the Silicon Valley brain.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's the whole world, and we're all doing it together, and the Midwest is included. For once.
That would
everywhere but Texas.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Yeah, I think a lot about this kind of stuff, and I think about brains and what they do, and consciousness and this kind of stuff, and this algorithmic thing. You're right. They just. I like what you say about attention. I was just thinking about that and how to put it into words. Somebody right now is scrolling on the comments, right? Because you do that when you watch a video. You go, you're like, oh, I'm just going to scroll through the comments. And somebody who was just doing that, as I said those words, was scrolling and reading something, and I said, someone's scrolling in the comments right now. They've gone, whoa.
Yeah. And
their attention has just been pulled back up. It's the cocktail party effect, which you talk about in that video 10 years ago, which is, if you're at a cocktail party and there's loads of noise around, and I'm listening to what you're saying, and there's this murmur,
There's
murmur,
no
and
no
there's
awareness of any of
absolutely-
this stuff
you
happening back there.
Couldn't say what
Yeah.
that conversation is. You can't even hear it. It's like a
Yeah.
big murmur. But if someone over there, says your name or says your hometown or something, you just like, boom, you're like
Yeah.
over there all of a sudden.
Mhm.
And it's not clear like exactly how or why that's even possible, but I know that makes me suspicious as to whether we have full control over our
Oh yeah.
over
Well,
our
look, we
attention.
definitely. I don't think that we have full control over our attention.
Yeah.
I think that no one living on the earth today who's paying attention,
Yeah.
to their consciousness at all
Mhm.
is like, yeah, I've got total control over my choices. I just closed the Reddit tab and opened the Reddit tab again. I
Yeah.
closed it and then I typed in RED. So I'm totally in control here right now.
Yeah.
So and like I've closed TikTok and opened TikTok.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's a mess. So yeah, the thing that I am most worried about, maybe I've got a lot of worries, but I am very worried about this. In terms of like how our minds interact with their world around them, I am worried about the extent to which we have these algorithms optimized for making money.
Mhm.
And just like when you have a food company optimized for making money, you don't end up with the healthiest food. I think when you have an information company optimized for making money, you don't have the healthiest information.
Mhm.
And that can be in a lot of different ways. But I think the
True.
biggest way that seems so obvious to me is that it encourages a lack of faith and trust in everything.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Because a very easy way to get people's attention is to say this thing that you think you should trust is bad, actually.
Mm.
I think about
Mhm.
RFK Jr. as a science communicator
Oh no.
because I'm a science communicator,
Yeah.
and he's communicating about science,
Okay. Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the body of human knowledge, and he talks and I think about like why he is successful
Mhm.
at getting information into people's heads, because that's part of my
'Cause
job.
he sounds
to,
like
share
Aquaman and you
things
can't
that
unhear
are
it.
interesting and hopefully also useful. And I'm sure that he sees himself in the same way.
Yeah.
And when I really like sort of dove deep into how his career has gone and how he talks about stuff, there's a trick that he will always have that I will never have, which is that he can say whatever.
Yeah.
And if you want to get attention from people, what should you
You
say?
can just lie.
The government is poisoning your children.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that.
What's this?
Well, I mean, you've been through enough, haven't you? I know. Well, that's right. Mind you, my life hasn't been easy either. No, not easy, no. I hate it when things go wrong, don't you? Oh, I hate it. I know. I hate it. Mind you, of course, sometimes things go right, don't they?
For how long I didn't know Hugh Laurie was British.
It's better than when things go wrong. Well, I mean, of course it is. Of course it is. Yeah, still. I know. Well, I mean, you can't give up. No. You can't eat money, I always say.
It's true haterism. No, true haterism.
I always say that. I know. Me too. Still. Well, I mean, I know. That's it. Well, I mean, for goodness sake, of course it is. Well, I mean, it's absolutely bound and certain to be. That's it. I know. Well, as if it could be anything else other than it. That's it. That's completely and dreadfully the whole point. You're right. I know. So right. Oh, God, I know. I know. Oh, well, of course you do. I mean, of course you know. Oh, well, that's right, isn't it? Well, of course it is, of course.
Why you gotta be like this?
Yes. Oh, yes, that's it. Yes. Oh, yes, still.
Who hurt you, Moon?
Well, I mean, anyway. Well, of course you mean anyway. I mean, what? I mean, of course you do. Well, there you go, you see. Well, of course I go there. Where else would I go? Well, that's it. I mean, where else? Yes, well, I mean, where? I mean, shut up, that's it.
This is why your algorithm is cursed.
Go and slice little bits off yourself and eat them. Of course you're right, that's it. Just quite simply shut up and never speak again. Of course I am. That's it, you see. I know. That's it. Please be quiet.
Oh, this escalated quickly.
So right. I'm right. You are so right. I know. God, I hate you. You're so right. Well, I mean, of course you do. Of course you hate me. You make me wretch. I know I do. Well,
Also
I think,
true.
See, the sight of you makes my
Much better
skin
than Discord
fall off.
debates.
Yes, that's it. You've got it. God, I want to kill you. I know. Still. Eh? I mean, eh? Anyway. I know. Well, there you are, you see. Well, that's it. I know. Eh? Yeah.
because I don't think the government is poisoning your children.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like a huge amount of evidence to indicate that the government is not poisoning your children. But if you'd like someone to look at you, the government is poisoning your children is a pretty good place to start.
True.
And like and then like you can build the story from there, but it is the scariest possible thing. So you show them the scariest possible thing. And I look through my social media feeds and I see versions of that are more appealing to me, you know, that like there'll be some
I can see where the mental trigger was in your lack of free will.
How bad everything
caused you
is,
to share
how,
that horrible,
how
horrible,
we're like headed toward certain doom. And I can't look away from that graph because like that's a real thing that's really happening. And then sometimes I look deeper and actually it isn't.
Yeah.
Actually, that graph was misleading in a number of ways.
Yeah.
Or I saw one once that straight up just was wrong. It was just somebody had put the numbers in wrong, but that's the one that went viral because it's the one that showed the scariest version of the story.
Yeah.
And I think that if the world is composed of a bunch of people who have no accountability for their lies or their mistakes, even, let's say that. Like they don't have to be intentionally misleading you, but like people make mistakes all the time, or they want to get views, and so they find that when they're more angry, the videos do better. If you have a world that's composed of all of this, then you have a world that is more frayed at the edges, one that maybe people are more aware of problems than they used to be, and so that's can be a positive, but one that is where if you are exposed to all of this, it's just impossible to feel any agency. And it is, and all you feel kind of is that at the root of it, there is this insurmountable evil. And I worry about this because that content does so well.
But that's why I think people like content like yours, because in part what you do is you notice this and you try to sort of speak against it. And I was just thinking there's this really interesting phenomenon that's maybe going on here, which is that you've kind of, how do you get people's attention? You take this thing that's happening in the world that people trust and you say, hey, don't actually trust that thing. And what you sometimes do in a video is you'll say, there's this thing in the world that everybody trusts, which is the videos of people saying not to trust stuff.
Yeah.
And you're saying, hey, like, don't trust that stuff.
And I'm doing it right now.
You're talking about Alex O'Connor, or you're talking about Fry and Laurie?
Capture people's attention with a similar sort of like, hey, this thing that you think is like wrong, but only because you've been sort of faced
I did a video
this.
that I really liked recently about AA batteries.
I win.
Okay.
So I
didn't see that.
Yeah, it did fine. The idea was I went in thinking there must be a reason why AA batteries still suck.
Yeah.
So like they're the same as they were when I was a kid. I'm 45 years old.
Yeah.
They're maybe a little bit better than they were back then, but they're basically the same. And why? Like I've got an electric car. It can
Alex
go
O'Connor was
for
the answer.
300 miles. Why would a AA battery still suck this bad? Why are we still using this old shitty chemistry?
Yeah.
And I thought the answer would be that like some form of evil. Like somebody's got a cartel somewhere and they're like not letting batteries get better because that would be bad for the bottom line. They want to keep us buying batteries. And I looked into it and like ultimately it's like kind of fine. Like it's ultimately because lithium ion batteries produce a different voltage than alkaline batteries. And so in order to get a lithium ion battery that works in a normal device that currently takes AA batteries, you have to put a voltage stepper in it, and that makes it more expensive. It takes up space inside of the battery, so you don't get as much gain as you'd think. And so like we're making these voltage steppers smaller and cheaper, and so maybe eventually we'll get there. But in the meantime, we haven't because it's hard.
But if
it's more expensive, and also the devices that use AA batteries tend to not need that much electricity anyway.
Yeah.
And if we need a device that does need more electricity, we just put a rechargeable lithium ion in it from the start.
Yeah.
So like we solve the problem a different way. And like the toys, like really the problem is that like people are building toys still that use alkaline batteries because it's cheaper to do that. So like the toy people are to some extent to blame.
It's the toy people. It's not the cartel.
But
It's
like
like
they're also
Cartel.
following incentives that kind of make sense, and most toys
totally-
don't get used for that long anyway, so they probably
That's
don't
also
need
true.
that much.
If only we could. Well,
battery
maybe we
stuff.
just need to bring more awareness to the lack of development of AA technology, which I've never thought about. I think one of your greatest talents
Why would you
is
think about?
not even just in like really helpfully explaining to people why certain things are the case, but thinking of the kind of stuff that kind of actually does need explaining, but you've never thought. Like I've never once questioned
Yeah.
why AA batteries suck.
Yeah.
And I don't know how an idea
Why
like that
we as a
hasn't-
collective
hasn't
species
struck
have
me. It's
multiple
kind of
people that
annoying
can
that it
think about
hasn't. I mean,
these
we were
things.
just
We don't
talking
all
before
need
about
to
all these
think
video
about it.
ideas. Like I mentioned Rhett and Link. They did their eating every. They were like eating every food that's mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
So every single time a food is mentioned of any kind in the Bible, they
We're
eat it.
YouTubers,
And
man.
I'm like, that is.
So are you. You've got your own ideas.
Why
You
can't
we have them in.
I need
we,
someone with
we
doing
have-
that.
You've got a ton of ideas. You just you have different ideas.
Yeah.
But
my
yeah,
idea is to bring somebody
do-
on who does think of such things and
Yeah.
interview them in Missoula, Montana.
I don't know that I need to see you eat every food in the Bible though.
That's fair enough, actually.
Yeah. That's a more of a Rhett and Link idea.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe the universe just.
I love
I
ideas.
don't know. I really like
love
the
ideas
every
and how
meat
they work.
burrito.
Because like,
Although
what's
it's probably
that?
disgusting.
Just sort of occurs to you, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think about it a lot because I have a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
And so when I'm having an idea, I now do the thing
Hmm.
that I do with like anxiety. You know, when I'm having an anxiety, I'm like, what's happening? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Whereas you don't tend to do that without ideas because you don't want to like interrupt the process. It's not
Yeah,
pleasant.
yeah,
and
yeah.
so you don't,
Every
like,
food in the
searching
Bible,
for
like,
a
what did
reason
you-
why this is happening to you.
Fill in the gap for mana.
But
no one knows what
because-
the hell that is.
It happens to me. I have done it. And what I really think it comes down to is like a good understanding of a problem set and a good understanding of a tool set.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like what Rhett and Link are thinking is like, we need to make something that's going to make people click.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a good time doing it.
Mhm.
We've got all the tools necessary to pull this off. So like they understand their problem set, which is like, how do you get people to watch something that they're going to enjoy? And then they understand their tool set, which is like,
What's
we're
the
Rhett and
hunt for,
Link,
Moon?
and like we have mythical entertainment around us, and yeah. And so like that, and like the audience that they have, like what is their audience like? What does their audience expect? And,
Yeah.
you know, you're working with your own tool set and problem set.
Yeah, I suppose so. And they do it very differently as well. I
Yeah.
was just there. I was just at Mythical HQ again, and it is quite the operation.
It's quite the operation.
People on computers who I'm just like, what could that person possibly be doing? I don't understand. Like, how are there? So
They're
many
ordering
offices and
every
things?
food in the Bible.
Yeah, that probably
Except the
was
one,
what he was
no
doing
one
that
knows
day,
what it
yeah.
is.
I'm just wondering, since you mentioned ideas and you come up with ideas all the time, there must be sometimes when you have ideas which you have to abandon either because you actually just can't work it out or no one's worked it out, where like
Yeah.
you've or maybe that becomes the video where you're like, why are AA batteries so bad? And you look it
Yeah.
up and you're like, oh, no one knows. And so you can make a video being like, hey guys, like, let's improve our AA batteries. That kind of thing must happen a
Yeah.
fair amount of the time.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Abolish
great
the
thing about
US.
this particular job.
What about everything else?
So if the question presents itself, which it doesn't always, and I couldn't tell you where the AA battery thing came from, but if the
Oh, no,
if
it's
the
Gran
question
Gran.
presents itself, the answer is always interesting.
Yeah.
Or it could be. I pretty much can always make the answer interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of different ways that I have learned to do that, and that it sort of like comes down to the question.
Yeah, philosophers do the opposite. They've got really interesting questions and really drawn out, boring answers. Like, you know, like, I don't know. It's or they just sit around thinking about China
Plus,
brains.
they're
all day.
hard. They're hard questions.
They are, and a lot of the time they are just literally
we could
meaningless
just,
or
you know,
completely impractical.
take the
But I
whole
defend
Eastern
the
Seaboard
sort of doing philosophy for philosophy's
and
sake.
split
You know?
everything Me too. off.
I think it's interesting.
yeah.
It's like a mental exercise.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like going to the gym or something.
There's stuff in there.
Yeah. I mean, you did the philosophy crash course
I
as well,
did.
right? You did the philosophy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That must have been quite
In,
quite
It
hard
was,
to get
I
right.
mean, I'll tell you what, it was 100% other people's words.
Yeah, right.
So that was a
All
teleprompter.
the states in the West
just like
just,
psychology was.
secede and leave Texas to
and we didn't. I was
freeze.
the cheapest available host.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot.
I can imagine like you're sort of reading from a teleprompter, being like, right, okay.
I mean, with SciShow, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like every time I go into shoot SciShow, it's a failure if I walk out without having learned something.
Yeah. You got to be like a newsreader who is sort of like reading these stories and managing not to constantly be sort of like, did you? You know,
fish do that?
Yeah. I think it's quite the talent. It's quite the talent.
Yeah, I mean, the worst videos are always the ones that I care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like AA batteries, I can just crank that out.
Yeah.
But like the moment I feel like something's important and I want to like do it really well, it's a catastrophe.
I assume all people.
Do you mean
90%
trying to get the
of people
video
just dispose
done,
of
or the
batteries
actual quality of the video
wrong.
that results?
The quality of
We
the
just
video
toss
that
them
results
beasts
is
in the
much
trash.
higher, but it's going to be 6 months before it's done, a minimum.
I'm the same. There are video ideas I've been wanting to make for literally years.
Yeah, I've got footage in the can.
Me too.
Ready to go. It's just like, but that's almost worse because now I'm like, I don't remember what that is.
I've got this video that I wanted to make a couple of years ago, and I still plan on making it. And I thought it'd be cool if I interviewed a couple of experts. So I went, I interviewed, got like an hour of footage. They're thinking, what happened to that
Yep,
footage?
we're too busy
I
trying to
emailed
build
them
space
recently
walls.
and was sort of like, hey, I just wanted to randomly say,
Yeah.
like, I still plan on making this. I'm really sorry. And they're totally cool with it. But now I'm also like, I've got 2 hours of interview on a subject that I haven't touched in a few years. I'm now going to have to watch through the whole It's just like, you're just like making more and more work for yourself, which is why I quite like the fact that a lot of the time with like podcasts and conversations that I have, it's really difficult to predict what will do well.
Oh yeah.
It's so difficult to predict that there's much less of that kind of like,
This is true.
oh gosh, like this one, got to be ready for this, make sure that it's like, let's just have a chat and like see how it
Put
goes.
it on the internet.
Yeah, I've been amazed at some of the good and the bad. Actually, the Rhett's episode, the first episode I did with Rhett, is the second most popular episode we've ever done, just under a journalist from the UK called Peter Hitchens, who stormed out.
Oh yeah. I thought about storming out a couple times just to try it out,
spice it up, see how
Never
it
done
feels.
it
You've never walked out of an interview.
You put an elephant in my head.
I know. It's like it's pretty.
Yeah, I did watch
mean.
that. It's hard not to want to watch things like that.
That's the thing, is it? That's it. I really didn't know whether to upload it because he
acted very strangely.
It was so If he
afterward, especially.
Yeah, but that's it. If he'd have just walked out, then firstly I probably wouldn't have uploaded it. Just at his request, if he said like, if he just walked out and as he was walking out said like, by the way, I'd rather you didn't run this, then like, if you said to me, Alex, like I feel like
That
I
tantrum
looked
was
it back and
pretty
like my
epic.
hair wasn't quite right, then it's like cool. Well, like I like to make sure that guests are comfortable to know that we're not going to post anything they don't want. But it was such an extraordinary moment that I had to make this decision.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It was.
What's it like?
It was
because I
tricky
know
to
that
decide.
you were into New Atheism as a youth.
Yeah.
What's it like getting to like hang out with all these guys?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's a privilege and an honor, but as I'm sure has happened to you many times, given that you are, internet famous and you've done all these kinds of interesting things, you find yourself in situations where like, either because when an email comes through and you get an opportunity, you're like, wow, this is really exciting and you're very excited, and then as time goes on, you're getting ready for it and you're expecting it, so that when it actually happens, it's almost like normal. You're so used to the idea that this is happening that it happens, and you're like, cool. And
it's not like you
afterwards-
run into them at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And then you like sit down and have a really engaging conversation out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I get more starstruck when it comes to like random, like micro celebrities who I've heard of that I never expected to bump into on the street or something, right? But it's really interesting because I feel as though I am like picking up this conversation where it was dropped off, because New Atheism was a thing. It's become fashionable to say that it's kind of dead. But there are still a lot of atheists, and there's still a lot of people who are interested in religion.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
mean,
not
I
really
think
a
it was
bit. It's
just
not a
the
movement.
first
there's
time
not
there
a
could be a
discussion.
real
So when it
push
comes to
for
sort of
atheism because it was
agnostic,
so
atheist,
detested throughout
content,
history.
particularly online. You know, there's lots of people doing it, but there doesn't seem to be sort of as unified a movement. And when it comes to like writing books or stuff like that, there's someone really doing that. And so I kind of feel like, okay, I'm in this position where I can pick up this baton, but I'm not trying to be the protege of someone like Richard Dawkins. I love Richard, you know, and I've spent a lot of time with him, and I respect him a lot. But there's this, I tell this story sometimes of when I saw him in a car park, and he asked me, I'd said to him that the God delusion I felt didn't adequately explain or deal with a particular argument.
Sure.
And he said to me later, he said to me at this event, he was like, well, what could I have done? And I said, well, you know, you treat all kinds of causation as if they're the same thing. And he says, well, do you think there are different kinds of causation? I said, oh, actually, I do. And then I sort of spent about 30 to 60 seconds trying to explain what I thought the difference was, to which he said, but what the fuck has that got to do with anything interesting? Thank God I'm not a theologian. And then he walked away. And by the way, he wasn't being rude. That's just who he was. And I really felt as though, like, being left stood there in this car park with my hand, like, okay, you know, I felt that was quite representative of what I feel like I'm doing, which is literally the archetypal new atheist has done his career, has done these really interesting things and wonderful things, and has gotten to this point where now, at this point of the conversation, where I'm like, well, there's this really interesting stuff about God and religion, and he's like, I'm not interested in that, and literally walks away, leaving me stood there like,
you've done it.
Okay, sure.
You did the metaphor in a car park.
It's me then, you know, and then I sort of feel like that is what my career is. It's Richard Dawkins saying, I'm not interested in that, and walking away, and me saying, well, I am.
I'm still here.
So let's keep it going. That's kind of, so it's been really interesting in that way to feel as though I'm talking to people who I've got to credit for in part for my existence in the world as I am on the internet, but at the same time feeling like I'm at the end of their intellectual career and I'm at the beginning of mine.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm going to repeat what they did, but rather. So it's a weird feeling.
Such a different world too.
Yeah. So I guess it's similar to how people feel like with parents, where like you love your parents, but you sort of feel like you're about to inhabit a different world to them, and there's sort of this crossover point where I respect you and love you, but we're about to live in a different life.
Scientist Richard Dawkins ended New Atheism.
It's funny, I had a very similar experience to this.
This message alone. New Atheist Review, Lawrence Krauss lost his tenure for sexual harassment. Sam Harris, platform race scientist. Richard Dawkins ended New Atheism by spazzing out at a woman who said a man made her uncomfortable in an elevator. And Hersey, let's not even...
When I was in college, and I had read this book. It was very meaningful for me by Daniel Quinn called Ishmael, and it just sort of like, you know, in like perfect moment kind of thing where it's like, okay, I can see the world as an adult now and like be much more critical of it and much more thoughtful about it. And he had written a bunch of later work, and I sent him an email, and I was like, you know, you in your work, you talk about how humans are just another animal, and there's nothing really special.
No,
about
I'm just
us
an
at
atheist.
XYZ.
I'm not
Here's why I think
anti-theist.
that there's something that's exceptional.
Although there are
about
some that
humans.
irritate me more
and
than
he basically
others.
wrote back, and he was like,
people like Kenneth Copeland.
What you've identified
and,
here is that we disagree.
What's that jackass's name?
And,
The Lakewood Church.
and I think that,
Joel
like,
Osteen.
you know, humans are very smart, and cheetahs are very fast, and blue whales are very big, and you know, that's just all different qualities of animals. And my instinct was to like write back and be like, no, like I'm not saying that we don't, like, many animals have many, you know, superlatives, but you know, there's a different thing that we're doing here. But he very sort of intentionally, and I think like any 60-year-old man emailing a college student was like being very gracious to email at all, and was saying it's okay for us to disagree.
Yeah.
And I took that with such, like, I felt so good about that.
Yeah, you're like, oh.
Yeah, like, oh, like, I, like, you know, I see a thing differently from you, and like we're all going to see things differently from each other.
Yeah. I think that's an important part of, it's where, like, if you're trying to be anything more than just an interested reader of someone's work, if you want to like do something, if you want to like put out content, if you want to write a book, if you want to be a scientist, you're not going to do that unless you meet some point of departure.
Right.
because otherwise, what are you there for?
Right, and it was almost like I was so young that I didn't think it was possible
Yeah,
to
right.
disagree.
I'm somewhat of the opinion that without religion, there'd be a decent percentage of people that just wouldn't be able to be halfway decent people without an interstellar carrot and stick to tell them, hey, if you don't, not be an ass, you're gonna go to hell. So that seems to be an impetus for some people to change in valuable ways. I don't know exactly how many people that is, but until we can get people to just not be assholes without being threatened with hell, I don't see where we get rid of religion entirely.
With someone who I agreed with on so much.
Yeah. But that's the most interesting kind of disagreement. So I imagine, the feeling you had there is a similar one. But I am constantly I feel so lucky, and it's like it's usually after the fact. And also, I mean, even like there's the new atheist stuff, but there's also like I grew up
Real
with
life
during
Harrison.
the
That's
heyday
hilarious.
of YouTube, and so like I've spoken
Harrison's
to some
a
really
monster.
interesting people. I've had Rhett on the show, had Vsauce on the show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And like, that hasn't gone
I'm
out
gonna
yet. It'll
go
be out by
grab
the time
some
this
tea
episode's
real
out.
quick.
But yeah,
I'll
like,
be right
like
back.
I was like, it was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I used to love Vsauce. And like, he comes in and we do the episode and it's really cool and we have a great time. And then it's only when he sort of leaves and I'm sort of, getting a taxi home or whatever, then I'm sort of like, what? Like, man, like that was Vsauce, and I'm sat with Hank Green, and it's like,
I once
stuff like
walked
that.
into
It's
a bar
cool.
in
It's
this
really
town in
cool.
Missoula, Montana. I walked into a bar, my favorite bar, the bar I always used to go to back when I went to bars.
Yeah.
And a guy pointed at me with 2 fingers and he said, Vsauce.
You're like, hey,
So I
Vsauce,
will now-
Hank here.
Every time I think about Michael, I think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's cool that somebody sort of
Yeah, they were right
there
enough.
was something was going right there. Because it's not like they were like Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Something's
Uh-huh.
correct.
Uh-huh.
And I've had that sometimes. There are some actors who I look a little bit like that I sometimes get confused for.
Right, because they they're like, I know that face. And then they're like,
Exactly.
and now.
Because I thought for a time maybe I just like really look like these people, so people confuse
Yeah.
them. But I don't think it's that. I
Yeah.
think it's like I know you from are you.
I've
that?
seen you on
Yeah.
a screen.
Yeah, exactly. It's something like that. But yeah, I feel incredibly lucky, and I try to kind of write down things that happen. I did. I'm really glad. Like I
That's good.
started in 2017. I got this journal which I type a sort of try to keep a kind of diary of sorts.
Mhm.
But I've got this handwritten journal which 2017 opens like, yeah, okay, I'm going to start this thing. I'm 17 years old and I've got this YouTube channel called Cosmic Skeptic and it's got like 70,000 subscribers. I think
You started when you were
where it
27?
I started when I was 17.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, which was 10,
That's wild.
whenever that was, 10, 10 years ago, about a decade ago. Yeah. So I was like 16, 17.
I was like, yeah.
I was making videos from when I was a teenager. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when did you start?
When I was 27.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah.
so exactly 10 years. Is that when you started or when things kind of
No, that
started
was the first
happening?
video, 27
Right,
years
okay.
old.
Yeah, I see.
We were like the grown-ups in the room
Yeah.
in 2007.
Yeah, right. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, well, I mean, I would have started a few years earlier than that, but 2017 is when, because that's why I wrote it down. I'm like, wow, I've got 70,000 subscribers. This is crazy. And I'm writing about all this cool stuff that's happening. It's sort of like, oh, like this person like followed me on
Yeah.
Twitter and stuff like that. And I'm reading it back and I'm like, that is so cool.
Mhm.
Because now, like, well, it's not something I'd think to write home about. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Remove-
There's
so
all these
nice.
little
Removing
moments.
religion
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily
and like,
fix the
you know,
problem.
I'm
It
sort of,
just
and I can tell when sometimes I'm
removes
writing in
some
hopes that I'll read
guardrails
it
without
back, where I'll be
solving
like, oh, I
anything.
hope that one day I get to do
like
this.
what makes people want to
hoping
be
that one day
theists in
I'll
the
read it
first
back in.
place.
And yeah, it's like
My God,
talking about
I don't journal at all.
it's
It's so good.
it's well worth it. You
Yeah.
said I remember in a recent video someone asked you about advice relating to cancer, and you told them to
I did journal during cancer.
to journal. So,
Yeah.
so you did journal a little bit, but
Yeah.
But was that more like
It was
functional?
both. It was functional because like chemo has symptoms and you want to know
Yeah.
what your sort of typical process is. And so there's a super useful functional element to it. But I also journaled.
Yeah, it's
Like-
disgusting that he
like a
came out
journal.
as a cultural
And,
Christian,
you know,
mostly
some
just
days
to
I
say,
wouldn't.
I
Some days
hate
I'd be so, like,
Islam.
Of course.
Feel like crap. Here's my 3 symptoms for the day.
Yep.
But then, I go back and read that. There's a bunch of good stuff in there.
But even that's what I was going to say. Is like even now it's not been like that long.
Yeah.
And you've probably will flick through it when you think to it and be like, oh, cool, I forgot I was thinking that. I forgot.
Yeah.
That is something you can do. I mean, people are always like, oh, you should
It's what
journal
him and
because
Ion
like
are disgusting.
it's good for your mental health or it's kind of meditative. Like that none of that is the reason. I just think it's really, really interesting
to have like a
read back.
dialogue with yourself.
Yeah, and also, you know how like sometimes people find history really weird in that like, what is it like? MLK and Anne Frank were like born on the same day, like that kind of stuff. Where it's like, no way, there was that crossover.
Yeah.
That happens in your own life because I'm like reading back and I'm like, oh, like I met this person today, like now a friend of mine or something.
Yeah.
And then underneath, I'm like, oh, also, you know, I hit this many subscribers or I just traveled to. And you're like, no way. Oh, whoa,
That was
yeah,
yeah.
So I only had that when that happened.
This is why I say the self doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't even know who
the story
who
I'm
you are.
telling is not the one that I experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Hank Green, whoever you are. I actually, I ended my podcast with Rhett saying the same thing, but that's only because we had some trifles trying to pronounce his second name. That's the reason I said whoever you are, because apparently McLaughlin is the American way with like an F.
Yeah.
McLaughlin, whereas I would say McLaughlin. And I got some gripe in the comments. Although I am a big fan of getting trivial things wrong incorrectly. I don't
Just
do this
for the engagement.
I don't do this.
Not on purpose.
But the best version of this I ever saw was Adam Neely, who is a musician. He's like a music YouTuber.
Yeah.
You know him?
Yeah, like Adam Neely, like Washington?
As in he lives in Washington?
No, as in he wrote the song Washington.
Oh, maybe.
Brad Neely.
That's no, yeah, maybe not. No, he's like a sort of he does like music theory and answers questions.
Okay, yeah.
And he did this episode on Perfect Pitch, and he's sort of walking like down a street, and this car horn goes off, and he's like, so I have perfect, and he's so like, for example, I know that was like an E flat or something, and I can't remember exactly, but as far as I remember, like it wasn't an E flat, and everyone was like, oh, you know, it wasn't, and everybody's in the comments like that was not an E flat, and I'm sure that at some point he then said, I knew that was not an E flat, but I said it was because I knew that everyone would comment about it. Now I can't remember if that's exactly how it happened, or maybe that was just a really great cover story.
Yeah,
but it's just genius. So, John Green, thank you, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, oh my God.
It's been great fun.
This was fun. It was scary because I had no idea what we were going to talk about, but instead we just talked about everything.
That's right.
Literally
That's the
talked about
way
everything. That was actually
it should be, I think. If
pretty
you enjoyed
dope.
that conversation, you might like my previous episode with Michael Stevens from Vsauce. You can watch it by clicking the link that's on your screen. To support my work and get early ad-free access to episodes, subscribe to my Substack at alexoconnor.com. Thanks for watching.
All right, and on that, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. It has been a blast hanging out with you all, and hope you at least had some fun and enjoyed the droning of a British person and an American person getting into every single philosophical thought and idea they could possibly run through their head. I know I did. So who do we raid out to tonight? Let's raid. We raid Enemy Charlie. Because not raiding Gibbs tonight. Been a blast, y'all. Catch you next week or sometime this weekend, depending on how things shake out. Oh, she doesn't accept raids right now. Okay, raiding Mooncake. Cool. All right, y'all. And as always, chat is the true winner. Chat is always correct. And I had fun. So catch y'all next time. Peace.